Welcome to Mic Drop, the podcast where relevancy is irrelevant and we don't give a shit about your feelings.
Ladies and gentlemen, as always, it's both a pleasure and an honor to introduce my next guest. He spent 8 years in the SEAL teams and was a medic and a medic instructor. As you can see, the level of maturity is at its utmost. He spent 2 years at Blackwater, both in the training and curriculum development department. He spent 4 years as a CIA contractor, which was 2 years super secret squirrel. 2 years instructing case officers and 2 years as a high threat protection agent. He is the co-host of the Team Never Quit podcast with Marcus Luttrell. And he is the owner and founder at Frog Logic Concepts, which is a motivational coaching and performance company. He has inspired professional sports teams, Fortune 500 companies, MMA pro fighters, and most importantly, kids. Last but not least, Captain Ahab once played him in fucking Moby Dick. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the stage, Dave Rutherford.
Oh, my brother. That's epic, dude.
My man. That's kind of turned into my thing.
Ahab, dude.
Played you. Fuck, the most interesting man in the world.
Brother.
Yeah, that's right.
Dude, one of my favorite books all time, man. And the fact that I can be in the same spectrum in your mind of,
that's right.
of Captain Ahab.
And he's a deep character.
He's deep, dude.
There's a lot of similarities and parallels between old Ahab and a lot of team guys. I mean, that's the fucking truth, right?
Yep. That's why we're sucked into that book.
I know it.
How you doing, man? You look good.
I tell you, I feel good. It's, it's fucking
40,
great. Yeah, for 40. Yeah,
you're looking.
I mean, you barely look 50, which says a lot in your line of work. It's fucking. I get that shit all the time. Like, I can't tell you the last time somebody guessed my age, either close to where I'm at or younger. Like, it's always at least 7-8 years older than I actually am. I mean, for the last 15 fucking years, that's been the case. But
dude, it's hard living.
Yeah,
brother.
I mean, it's fucking distinguished. It's weathered. I've earned all the creases, whatever you want to say. But one of the things. So, just for the audience, Dave. He had me on the Team Never Quit podcast. What was it, a year and a half ago or so?
Yeah, you were in our first kind of slew of guests.
Yeah. So for me, I say it's a pleasure and an honor. I don't say that. I don't invite people on here that it's not a pleasure and an honor. But for me, it really and truly is very special to me to to be able to have you on my show now. Here a year and a half later, because you're a phenomenal fucking host. It's an epic podcast. If you've not checked it out, fucking choke yourself and then go check it out.
Dude, we're coming up on 100, man.
Yeah, I mean, that's fucking nuts.
It's nuts, right?
Yeah. But to have you, sit across here in person and take the time out of your fucking nutso schedule, man, I appreciate the hell out of you being here. Thank you for coming.
Oh, I mean, Mike, we go back to
the day
1998.
7 or 8.
Yeah, 1998, SQT. And that crazy class.
I know it.
And I take a step back and I think about the profound nature of all of our experiences, right? All the guys that we were core group of friends in that crew. And you think about what we've gone through, and it's important. I mean, it's not insignificant, if you will, right? And when you look at, I tend to, as you know, or as your guests might not know, I'm a little positive every now and then. Yeah. And so what I really love to see are individuals that have taken those core experiences and not kind of remained in that silo of identity, right? Mm-hmm. And really have grown. Yeah. And you are one of those dudes, brother.
Well, shit, I learned from you. I mean, you wrote the book on it literally and figuratively, before I ever, really even thought about doing it. So, I mean, I appreciate you saying that, but I think you and a handful of other guys have set the example as to how to do that. So
thank you.
It's humbling to hear you say that. One thing that I have, in some respects, stolen from my experience on your guys' podcast is the lightning round. Now, now I've twisted and distorted the shit out of it.
I think yours is probably better than ours. I mean, what's your favorite superhero character? That's getting old, isn't it?
Well,
no offense, Marcus.
Yeah. I mean, to me, truth be told, other than one question, I mix up. There's a couple questions I'll ask most people, but I try to do almost a lightning round in my own head. Honestly, like I'll think, what is the most ridiculous fucking thing I can ask somebody? and the reason why is, from being on lots and running 100 of them, is that, when you get a guest on here, not that there's any mental block on your end, but just, when you get thrown a fucking total loop, especially if it's funny,
yes,
like it relaxes things and it gets it gets things flowing and it breaks the ice. And especially when you're doing it in person, which is my gig, is every one of these episodes is in person, and I plan on maintaining that.
Should we tell them about the 4-hour conversation we just had before we got on here?
So that's the other thing that you and I are both guilty of in running podcasts, is the guest and this, for the listener, here's a little inside tip, or here's the behind the scenes reality, is that every fucking time somebody comes up here, like I'm constantly trying to force myself to start the episode before we spend 3-4 hours shooting the shit prior to, which is exactly what happened today. And
then the cool thing is, though, with you and I, is that it doesn't even matter, because we haven't even touched on.
Yeah, I know. We can run our mouth for fucking ever. So that's the beauty of it. So you're in for it.
She always used to say.
He was fucking spot on. But all right, so my lightning round, it's not just 3 questions, and they're totally random. Some are serious, some are not. But we're going to get right into it. Are you ready,
dude?
All right,
fired up.
What's your favorite type of cookie?
Favorite type of cookie is oatmeal raisin. Right? Because I like to, and it's only like with those rolled steeled oats, that you can get in the cool organic section, because I trick myself into believing that if I eat 25 of those fuckers, I'm still good. Like I'm still healthy, right? If you eat the chocolate chip or you go with the sugar, you feel like a total, like you're destroying yourself. But those oatmeal, like I'm healthy. Yeah,
it's going to keep you regular, and it's raisins, so it's practically grapes. I mean, you're kind of eating a fruit and granola salad. Really, that's what's happening.
Dude, exactly.
I thought you were going to go with Fortune. But
no.
I can't handle the Fortune cookie.
No, I can't. They suck for me.
All right, hey, fair enough. No snickerdoodles, no.
No, I'm pretty basic.
Classic
man.
Oatmeal raisin.
I'm not. I don't have a sweet tooth.
Homemade or an actual brand?
Homemade. I love the homemade cookies, man. Right. My ex made a great homemade oatmeal cookie, and that was about it. But
shout out
we
to
ought
the
to
ex on
delete that one.
Yeah.
But
that's not getting edited out. Yeah, that's varsity team right there.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. But no, that thing, it was just something homey about it. And there's something, like, she would send them when I was working for the agency. She'd send them over. And it was just something about a nice homemade cookie, man. That just feels good.
I think you could go somewhere else without a nice homemade cookie. We'll get to that. Don't worry.
You know what? As I go back and re-listen to a bunch of your shows before, you like to skirt that fringe of sexual innuendo.
That's me.
I like that. Bro.
That's my life. Like, here's the no bullshit. I'm holding back. Like, how many team guys that won't turn anything into some way to make an innuendo out of it? You can answer almost any question when somebody asks where something is or what about this. If there's a what or a why, bend over and I'll show you. Is the best way to answer that. Like,
and as recently divorced males, former team guys, I think it's much more poignant now in our lives, right?
Absolutely it is. Yeah. Hey, where's the coffee? Fucking bend over and I'll show you. Like, and it's never not funny, even in court or being pulled over. There's no inappropriate time for that.
Negative.
All right. What is the most embarrassing moment you've ever had?
I was 13. I was at the Battle of Bands in Boca Raton, Florida. I was with my best friend, Rich Critchfield. It was back in the days of Dayglow surfer gear, right? And we had these Jams shorts that went down to our knees, big baggy. I was wearing the Dayglow green. He was the Dayglow orange, whatever like Rip Curl OP shirt we had. I'm up on top of a cooler, jamming out to the local horrible bands from, Boca High and the other places. Lights flip on. I'm still up there. Rich comes up behind me, de-shorts me, right? There I am, screams, "Look at me!" And we were with these two girls, right? With these two girls, a couple hundred dudes, turn around. I'm standing there, my teeny little, briefs on.
It was cold.
Right?
It was cold.
13 and not much changed since then. But that was it, and I was mortified. Like, it was one of those moments where I'm like, holy sweet Jesus. Because I still cared, right?
Yeah.
I still cared about...
Now you don't give a fuck.
I don't care at all. Right? I didn't care less. So, and I chased him, and he was faster than I was.
Still with your shorts down?
No, I yanked him up, otherwise that would have been hilarious. And I chased him, and he finally, he just couldn't keep running because he was laughing so hard. The two girls we were with laughing so hard. And that was mortifying, man.
God,
and it's still I can feel the...
Your palms are sweaty talking about.
Oh, bro, it's just, my pits just started getting wet, dude. Like, everybody always, when you talk about that stuff, people are like, well, in the teams, and I was like, I was never embarrassed about anything.
I didn't give a fuck by then.
I could care less about anything, so...
Oh, that's great.
And now I intentionally try to be stupid in front of my girls, you know? I try and embarrass them constantly.
Yeah. Oh, that's fun. Yeah, I'm right there with you. It's fucking great. All right, so next question is, worst place on earth you've ever been / had diarrhea?
Oh, that's a great question, man.
But all right, so before you answer that, I just noticed I'm going to let everybody in on a secret. I wrote these notes after about 11 days on the road, late at night. I was tired and fucking delirious. I just want to tell you how I spelled diarrhea now that I'm looking at it. It's DIAHREAH.
That's right?
That's not
correct,
even close
right?
to fucking right.
No, bro,
look
it
is. I want you to look at it.
Hold on, let me get my readers on.
Get your old guy glasses. That is not how you spell fucking
Yeah, dude, that's spot on, bro. Hey, listen, you're an author.
Retarded.
You
that's
have
right.
creative liberty, bro.
That's true.
I think that's spot on. Plus, if I read that, I know exactly what you meant, dude. So. Oh, man, that's a good question. I mean, I guess it's have to be overseas somewhere. I'm just trying to remember which diarrhea episode was the worst.
Yeah.
Probably Afghanistan, I think. It wasn't the first trip because it was in the teams and it was MRE, so I didn't have...
Yeah.
It was tough to even, defecate at all. It was probably with the agency, I don't know, probably 2010. Because, they have insane chefs in these places... Yeah. Right, and the food is incredible, but sometimes it's a
little rich.
It's a little rich, and
or foreign,
or foreign, and next thing you know, man, it's just done. And so,
it's not an option either.
No, and we'd be in these government facilities, and the toilets over there are ridiculous. And man, for like 3 days. And when you don't have it, you're not busy. And then when you do have it, you're doing runs all the time. And man, I literally full kit in their one hold bathrooms, trying to squat down, and I was wearing man jams, of course. And so trying to manage the man jams, I'm pooping on the back end of that one. I don't know how they do it. They pull over the side of the road, they jump out of their car, they lift up, you see it spray out, and then they're on, and they look relatively decent. But
they must do like when chicks back in high school would do the roll and the hair tie.
They had a roll hair tuck. Yeah. No, I didn't know that. Yeah. Right. I wasn't really proficient in man jams. I was just brand new, and so. It got all over my man jams. It got all over my tri shorts. It literally was just everywhere. And then I had to sit in a hot car for I don't even know how long, and it was just everywhere.
Yeah,
that was horrible.
Well, better you than me on that one.
The worst one I've ever seen. I gotta tell this.
Get right into it.
My AOIC first platoon. We're training Thai SEALs. Obviously you ingest a little bit too much of the wrong stuff over there. Yeah. And so he had done that. We'd been on a good stretch, and it hit him, that Thai bug hit him. And it had been putting guys down hard to where the other medic and I, we had concocted this completely illegal mixture of Phenergan and codeine and all this stuff. And
regular Friday night.
Yeah, regular Friday night for a team guy. But this time... Someone was like, "Hey, Rut, go get, Landry." And so I'm like, "Well, where is he?" And they said, someone saw him in the bathroom. So I go in, and in the Thai, we were teaching them TCCC, and I go in there, and he's got his woodlands around his knees, his bait's still on, his blouse unbuttoned, no shirt on because it's so hot. He's in the fetal position, and he's curled up, and out the back it's sprayed,
Jesus.
like sprayed. Out the front, it's all over the wall because he's like projectile. And he looks at me, he goes, "Rod, help."
How the fuck do you help him?
I got a hose first. I sprayed him down. And then I was like, "Hey, man, I got to go back and training these guys. Are you good?" And we left them there for like 6 hours.
Holy Christ.
And finally, I don't even remember how we plugged him up to get him back to the hotel. And he was down. I mean, something like he lost, I don't even know how much.
26 fucking pounds.
Yeah, it was
stupid.
crazy in like 2 days. It was insane. But that was the worst I ever saw.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, that was epic.
I wish I had that on video.
Oh, dude, imagine if there were cell phones back then.
Oh,
brother.
I know it. I'm glad that we grew up when there wasn't, and even early on in the teams, like, Jesus Christ, I can't even imagine the incriminating shit that would be on GoPros and fucking.
I'd be in jail for sure.
I don't remember where I heard this question, but I thought it was fucking great. And I heard it fairly recently, but it's a would you rather.
Okay.
Would you rather take an overhand right to the face via Mike Tyson in his prime, or a spread eagle kick to the nuts by Bruce Lee in his prime?
Oh, wow. I'd go spread eagle kick from Bruce Lee in the hopes that something somewhere in his mind would have...
Show some empathy.
That's what I'm counting on. I think Bruce Lee innately had some empathy in him, right?
Yeah.
The form of Jeet Kune Do, right? Yeah. Flow like water, right? Something in there would translate into my positivity. Like he'd be like, "All right, I'm gonna come 43% off this kick and not drive his taint into his, not destroy his descending colon and his duodenum, not shatter that, try to like maybe put the toe to catch, and not really, slam my balls up into my stomach. I'm hoping for that because Mike Tyson in his he was insane.
Yeah, like it was like getting hit by a fucking sledgehammer.
Bro, I went back when I started working with the UFC fighters. I wanted to understand the primal drive, and you talk about it, and I love talking about it with you with the dogs, right? The primal drive that exists, and how do you satiate it? What's the relief? How's it come? Well, when you work with fighters, you want to understand that. What's the driver? Why are they getting in that ring for a certain fight? To play with the potential of death, depending upon the size and the spectrum and the quality of the fighter. And I went and started reading as much as I could about the fight world and who was really there. And everything I ever read about the man, he had detached himself fully from any of that core human condition where empathy, compassion, any of that was just gone. And what he's doing, he was manifesting what was he, 19, 28, straight years of misery and suffering and pain, and wanted to unleash the totality of that experience, every punch. Yeah. And that's why he was so devastating. Yeah. So no thanks, man.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's no shit. And I mean, to me, there's two. The most unique thing about that, I think, is it mirrors your outlook on life. Is that there's one element that exists that why you picked what you did, and it's because you have hope.
Thank you.
You have hope that he's going to fucking show you some mercy and not kick you as hard in the nuts. Whereas the other, it's like it all boils down to you got a positive attitude.
That's it.
Well, that's our show, folks.
That's it. And, that's all we got.
Yeah. Check out DaveRut.com and go fuck yourself. Yeah.
But in a positive way.
But positively go fuck yourself. No, it's fucking great shit. To me, it's I would not have thought of it that way. To me, it's just like fucking flip a coin, almost. I mean, there's an element of getting kicked in the, like, now you're going to be miserable, like, and you're probably not going to be able to ever get laid ever again.
Well, let me ask you this: have you ever been truly kicked in the scrotum?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. You know what it feels like.
Oh
right?
Yeah. I mean, it's debilitating.
And you've been overhand right. Yep. Right, good solid shot,
but not as hard as either one of those motherfuckers.
No, but you have a reference point for knowing. Is what my point is.
So I mean, I guess I would lean towards, and here's where my mentality probably differs from you, is I would lean towards the Mike Tyson, because then I would be a fucking vegetable, and I wouldn't even know how fucking miserable I am, So maybe ignorance is bliss, and I'm gonna go with the overhand right to just As now I know,
It's
like
just
my
'cause
nuts
you're
are gone.
hard, dude, and I'm not hard anymore, man. I'm trying to find that peaceful state of existence, right?
Yeah, the warrior gardener or whatever the fuck, fucking warrior horticulturist. All right.
I'm no longer the poet or the warrior poet. I've switched it because I don't want the pain anymore. I'm the poet warrior.
I'm the soldier gardener. Wait, what?
That
I work at home.
sense.
I work at Home Depot now. What's the most humbled you've ever been?
Oh wow.
Well, that was a fucking pregnant pause of.
No, that's a huge question for me.
It's a hard one to answer.
Yeah.
It's hard to pick. The time that's the most humbling for sure.
I would, the initial gut response in my head was every time we have a guest on our show that they tell these incredible stories about you're never quit, about being in high school and what you had to go through there. Charlie Plum, 2,103 days in the Hanoi Hilton. I'm always humbled when you hear what type level of pain and suffering people have gone through to discover something about themselves, which inevitably, projects them into this realm of success. But for me, man, I would say really, it's a couple different things. I mean, getting divorced truly humbled me. I really thought I had a handle on what love was. I thought I had a handle on how strong I was, but man, that shattered me into a million pieces. Walking into Buds, because I was a Division I athlete, athlete top of my game all through high school, and I was nothing on that sand. I was nothing in comparison to those men that were our instructors. So massive. Meeting, being a father, I think that humbles me the most out of everything, because I really understand that I don't know shit on a regular day, bro. And you and I have had that conversation over the last couple of years with that, and how tough it is, in particular with girls.
Yeah.
So it's tough to narrow that humility down. And also, one of the great things I've learned by being friends with really amazing human beings, really exceptional human beings out there, is that a core characteristic of our ability to grow and evolve and become better is living in that humility. So that's a great question, dude.
Yeah. I mean, to me, one of the things that I know for me, and for you, it's tenfold just in the amount of episodes, and the caliber of folks that you've had on your show, is the ability to, extrapolate perspective, in terms of being humbled, but like I feel fucking honored, legitimately honored, and absolutely blessed to be able to bring people such as yourself and all the other amazing guests I've had on the show to get, those perspectives that both humble you and make you realize, like, A, how the world works, B, shit probably isn't that bad if you're having a bad day. Just like
you talk to Travis Mills, brother.
Yeah, I mean,
dude has no arms and no legs,
and still has sunshine billowing out of his asshole.
Beaming out of his asshole, he could be the beacon of existence for positivity. Yeah. Because of what he's gone through.
People talk about piss and excellence. He actually does it, so
daily.
Daily.
Yeah,
I mean, to me, it's an amazing opportunity, and one that I don't take for granted. I know you don't, and it's a really neat position to be in. On a lighter note, favorite vacation spot and why?
This was a good one. I like that you asked this one, and as I was driving here from Dallas, man, I was trying to think of what I would say if you did ask me this one. And vacation spots are difficult for me because I really don't know what a vacation is.
Yeah. I think it depends on why you're on it too,
100%. And I know you're like me, that I don't get to shut my brain off from work
Yeah.
a lot. So for me, it was always the theoretical idea that if I could somehow find a place where I could turn
Do
that
both.
off.
Or do both, right?
Little. I mean, because every piece of psychological material I read on the human mind says you got to shut the shit off, right? Otherwise, you're going to destroy yourself.
Yeah.
Well, I haven't done that legitimately my entire adult existence, right?
Yeah.
And so this concept that people can go to, Koh Samui in Thailand and turn their shit off for 30 days.
Yeah, I don't know how they do it.
I don't even know. So I've never had a vacation where I got to experience that level until this past summer, where I actually made a concerted effort. I've fallen in love again with this amazing woman. She's got 2 little girls, so I have 4 daughters potentially now, hopefully, if everything goes right. Yeah. Right? So, and that's 10,
That's
7,
a lot of fucking estrogen, Sarge.
10, 7, 6, and 5.
Sweet Jesus.
Plus my lady.
Yeah.
Well, she's from Maine, and her family, up there they call them camps on all the lakes, right?
Yeah.
You go to the camp, right? And so we all, on our first co-family trip, we went up to this camp on this teeny little Maine lake. And, bro, it's this old beat-up cabin from the 50s.
Yeah.
Literally, it's like 2-bedroom. There were 17 of us.
Jesus.
All right? 17, man. So we slept in the tent, right?
So just to clarify, this is your favorite vacation spot we're talking about.
So far, yeah. 17 of us. We slept in a tent, right? The girls were in bunk beds. Her brothers were in a camper, and another in the tent, another in the living room.
Fucking deliverance,
bro. It was literally, it was rough, man. It was not 5-star by any stretch of the means, Yeah. But Mike, for the first time, I was able to put my phone down, and focus on my youngest just casting a line, which I had never spent a single moment at all. I tried one time for one day, right when the divorce was beginning, to try and do dad stuff with my girls and try not to be a crazy workaholic. And so I shut the phone down. I had to look at it one afternoon, and the camp next to us had internet, so it was there, it was available, so the enticement was there. But I shut it down, and I fished every day with my youngest. I went swimming with this woman every day, and she's learning the combat side stroke, right? Meanwhile, she was the captain of her field hockey team in Maine, so she's a badass athlete, actually better than me in most stuff. So we're swimming every day with her.
And you're waterboarding her on the side.
Yeah, like, oh, that's not good enough longer. You can go longer, right? Playing, pushing our 2 middle in the swing for 20 minutes a day. Spending time with the oldest, doing whatever, hanging out with her brothers, just drinking beers, going water skiing, and cooking with everybody, and meeting her, and getting to know her. And bro, it was glorious.
Yeah. It's interesting hearing you say trying to focus on being a dad and doing shit with your daughters and not being a workaholic. It's in some respects refreshing to hear you say that, and in others, highlights, I think, a problem with guys like you and I is that, to me, it's very hard. And if there's one thing I could say that I truly, I hate to use the word regret, because I don't like to have fucking regrets, period. But you learn lessons from even things that you wish you had done different. But is exactly that. Is that it for me, and I think for most guys in our shoes, with daughters especially, it's hard to compartmentalize the difference or distinguish the difference between working hard and being successful to be able to provide for them versus actually being present and living in the fucking moment. Dude. And to me, like it's a constant inner struggle. I know I have is that when I'm with them, like, I still know there's things that I need to get done, and that if I don't do them, then I'm not maximizing this, but here's the reality, is that they have to be that fucking priority for you. Now, I think you've got to leverage it, and that you can't let them turn into entitled assholes that think that that they get everything every time they want it. Like, you've got to still be smart about that, but that should not trump your ability to spend that quality time, be present, and make that time count, because time is more valuable than money, and you don't get it back. So
ever.
But it's like I said, it's I'm glad I'm not the only guy that struggles with that, because I know I sure as fuck do.
It's just like you. It's one of my biggest regrets. It's one of my biggest issues that I face. I don't even know how many. Like my oldest was in her first talent show, and she sang Tomorrow from Annie, and she has this beautiful voice. Miss that. Yeah. She won an award a couple weeks later for this art project she did at school. She was the first grader in the history of the school to ever be given the award. I miss that. I don't even know how many first days. It was funny. On Facebook, a buddy I had gone through boot camp with and was at Bud's at the same time with, his wife posted a picture of the first day of school a couple weeks ago and said this was the first time he's still active, first time he had made their first day of school since 2010.
God damn. Yeah, it's crazy. I just missed mine's first day of school because I was, on the East Coast fucking working, I mean, now granted, I think that may have been the first day I've missed, but yeah. I hear you. I mean, like there's things that you're not going to get them back, and it sucks. But again, for me, for any wives or women out there, period, that, that are listening, or even guys for that matter, I think, I hope that people hearing that understand. I know for me, like it's hard to not, it's not that I think any of us have a preference for work, or that we would rather do that. It's not being able to again kind of compartmentalize the fact that it's wanting to be that biologically appropriate provider for our families.
Yep.
And to slack on that, like there's almost an uncomfortability that is associated with it, and thinking like I'm not holding up my end of the bargain as the provider if I'm not maximizing my ability, to try to grow what I'm doing, especially as an entrepreneur. I think to work a 9 to 5
you are
job,
not a 9 to 5 mug.
Well, I mean, neither of us are.
Yeah, I've tried it.
Yeah,
I've worked for a mortgage marketing company. I had worked for a domestic security company. Yeah. I've
Walmart greeter.
Yeah, you name it, man. Yeah. I've done it, man. I thought that was my true calling.
Yeah, the Walmart greeter.
Yeah, I thought I was going to crush that. I was going to be the first 6-figure Walmart greeter ever.
Turns out HR had other plans after I greeted.
Not like it the first time I said, "Hey, asshole! I just said hi to you." Right? We're not that guy.
Yeah.
And it is. Hey, how much before we get the wake up call that we missed
I think sometimes it takes a real slap in the face or kick in the fucking balls to make you realize, hey, this is the priority, and I don't care how much you provide, if the relationship with what you're providing for fails because of it, then what's the fucking point?
What's the point?
So.
But remember, and again, I go back to those drivers that you.
Yeah, they're primal.
You knew more than anybody, any dude I've ever met, in terms of, your ability to transfer. The psychology of, we're all, like, I love when you say we're all animals, right? And to transfer that psychology, right? We have that drive in us, right? Mm-hmm. I'm going to succeed. And what is my estimation of success versus Bob, who sells insurance down the road? And no knock on selling insurance. It lets them be home every day at 5:30 or 5. They can be coaches for their kids. They can do that. But man, I'm giving 80 speeches a year, right? I'm working with pro sports teams. I'm in Texas recording our podcast 8 times a year for 10 days at a time, right? Knocking out 9 shows.
Yeah.
So I'm not normal, Bob.
Yeah.
So I either have to live with that or set some, drop dead boundary in the future that I'm hoping that it's a gamble that I didn't miss too much shit. My girls aren't going to hate me for it.
Yeah.
And it's particular going through the divorce.
Yeah.
Man, that you're more. I'm much more conscientious of it now than I was prior to that.
Yeah. Yep. Amen. Next, and this is one of the more serious questions. What vegetable do you hate most?
Oh man, that's tough. So I just started the keto diet 2 weeks ago, and I swear to God I'm quitting Monday. Because to hell with that shit.
You got to balance it.
No, I can't stand it. And I haven't lost a single fucking pound either, by the way. And I think I've gained weight, because I'm eating like.
But I'm fucking starving, and it's miserable.
And I'm miserable, right? So I'm done. I don't know, man. I hate eggplant.
Yeah.
Especially, when it gets all soggy and nasty, and people are like, "Oh, I love eggplant." This, and I'm like, "That sucks." I don't know how you eat that. I mean, it's tough, man. I'm a mood orientation guy. Like, depending upon my mood, I'm happy to shift my hatred towards other vegetables at a drop of a hat. I'm not a sole vegetable hater. I'll hate everything a little bit.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Should I move on to the next question, or
Sure.
do you not give a fuck what vegetable I hate? Is that what's going on?
No, I'm interested to know, like, for sure what it is.
Lima beans.
Why?
Fucking lima. They're like, it's like earwax.
True. I'll give you that.
It's like bitter fucking earwax.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know why. Like what?
I don't know. Have you ever dug your finger into your ear and licked that?
Most times.
Yeah.
Most times.
All right.
It's fucking horrible.
Lima beans.
All right. I did have a government question. I'm going to skip it though.
Okay.
This is the one question I ask absolutely everybody. You've already alluded a little bit to starting a keto program, which I'm happy to talk about. What is your morning routine? Now, I want to build a little context. Is that there's been a number of guests, I can't even remember which fucking ones, but I asked their morning routine and they told me about their whole fucking day. Just your morning routine. We'll say the first 2 hours that you're awake. What does that look like on a normal day where you're home and not traveling?
Normal day home, not traveling.
Well, because of the amount of travel you do, let's do one of each.
Okay. All right. Normal day home. With kids, without kids.
I mean, smoking. What do you spend? You spend more time without, probably.
Probably.
Yeah, I mean, for the sake of, like, what do you do for you? I'd say without.
All right, let's do without. All right. I love to sleep in.
God bless. Give me some on that one.
Yeah, no, I have never been a morning guy. I hate the morning. I can't. I mean, I'll wake up if some dude's like, "Hey, dude, let's go."
The house is on fire.
Yeah,
let me hit snooze once. Fuck off.
No, I'm a snooze tapping son of a bitch.
Dave, you are my spirit animal.
Yeah,
I just realized that.
Yes, brother. I cannot stand, and I like to sleep as much as I can now.
Fucking hibernate.
Yeah, bro. I'm 9 hours, and I'm a happy camper, right?
Fuck, love it.
So maybe around 8:39, somewhere around there, because I'm in bed probably around 11:30, midnight, right around there. Get up. First thing I do is I pray. I've got a prayer that I recite. Most of it has a component of just gratitude. I'm just stoked that I'm up and I'm alive and I have what I have. So I pray. Get out. I go in the bathroom. I drink whatever amount of water, 8 to 12 ounces, whatever they say it is.
Whatever the
fuck they
8,
say.
12, 40, fucking whatever.
I don't know. It says to drink some water, so I try and drink some water, right? I get in the shower just to loosen up. Otherwise, my neck is trashed. My lower back is a mess. Usually 5 minutes in there.
God bless being over 40, huh?
Dude, brother, you tell me about it. I'm not as crazy as Aubrey Marcus yet, who has, goes and does the ice bath, gets out, puts sun on his face, takes his supplements. I just don't have that patience or discipline. I really, like, if Jacko would hate me. Yeah. I'm the most non-disciplined guy on the fucking planet, right? And so I do that. I'll put on my uniform, right? My my combat flip-flops.
Fucking A.
I put on my Tiger Stripe cargo shorts. I put on my Team Never Quit Frog Logic. Now my new Tricos t-shirt. Somebody I love and support. Put on same thing with the hat, right? I go out. I try and eat 2 eggs or medium, bacon, sliced avocado, latte almond milk. Eat that. Sit down, and I do my daily dose of Frog Logic. The daily dose can take me, if I'm on point and my brain is functioning, I can knock it out in 25, 30 minutes. If I'm brain dead from travel or kids or whatever. It usually takes me about an hour.
What can you give the listener and myself a kind of a Reader's Digest synopsis of what that is?
So the Daily Dose of Frog Logic, really, I started probably 4 or 5 years ago when social media was really starting to go, and you looked at what other motivational guys, because that's how I benchmark my business. What's Tony Robbins doing?
Little dick measuring.
That's what we do. We gauge that shit, right? I got to know and what works and what doesn't work. Although I'm definitely not like the guy that's going to be like, hey, Mike, bud, come on over here. Let me sell you 6-minute abs, bro. Or, hey, man, I got the perfect way you can make
5-minute abs.
Yeah, 5 minutes. You can make $1 million in 30 days. That ain't me.
Yeah.
I'm the guy that's going to sell you how to get kicked in the fucking teeth and how to get up for 5 minutes, right? At most, right?
Yeah.
Maybe every day. Maybe only on Thursday. Because that's only as good as
I'm
I
a
am.
part-time guy.
Yeah, part-time motivator. And I started to see everybody had these daily snippets they got out. And I was like, yeah, okay, I'll do that. And I'll bring my infinite, amazing wisdom to people. And man, at first they sucked, right? It was the typical canned bullshit of, pulling some quote from Winston Churchill and then adding my little dumbass 2 cents to it. I had a graphic art guy working for me. I tried to do some cool visual with it, and man, it was garbage, dude. Garbage, man. It sucked.
Do you still have some of them? Are they still posted?
The old ones? Yeah, everything's still there.
Dig it up, ladies and gentlemen.
Everything's still there, and you'll see it. And then when a buddy of mine, Andrew Kako, died of cancer, I started to realize. And then I also had a stark thing because I'm always trying to reassess myself against, what is out there and what I'm doing and how am I just conforming to the group, right? Groupthink's a vicious thing, especially in social media world, right? And we can talk about that later if you want. And so I was like, why am I doing this? Why am I not being genuine to who I am? So my buddy Andrew died of cancer, and it was a 2-year battle that we fought together, and I tried to help him stay positive and all that, and he succumbed to that. And then right after that, in May, that was November 14, and then that was November 15, then May 16, Bruce Cunningham died from alcoholism.
Yeah.
That was a 4-year battle.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and that was devastating to me because that was, Bruce was the guy that had the most profound impact on me in the teams and really taught me just the power of educating and what it meant and what you could do with it. And it made me believe in myself, which was unique because a lot of team guys, they challenge you, but they don't make you believe in yourself necessarily. Yeah. It's kind of contraindicated. And he helped me do that with the guys that went through SQT with me, and I really want to do it. And so I stopped writing the things that I thought people wanted to hear, and I wrote the things that I wanted to say.
Yeah.
Really, from my heart. And what's crazy is that, although you look at me now, you would say, yeah, that makes sense. But I was an art major with a minor in poetry in college, right?
Holy fucking
yeah,
Christ,
I was a hippie, dude.
Yeah, the violent hippie.
I was a violent hippie, yeah.
Mitch Aguiar's got violent hippies.
Dude,
It's fucking great.
I love Mitch, man. He's one of my favorite human beings on the planet.
Fucking great
right?
shit. That's such a fucking brilliant shirt.
It's by far the greatest thing ever. And that was kind of me, although my big influences were, Charles Bukowski, who is this derelict who lived on Skid Row forever. I loved Hunter Thompson, obviously. I loved all the manic, crazy, insane poets, right? Yeah. And so I started saying, you know what? I'm tired. The warrior thing, I don't want to bear the burden anymore of it. I don't want to be the guy, get your shield up, get in your phalanx, take the battle of life head on every day. Now, every now and then I'll put some of that shit in there, but I was like, man, let's dig into the core essence of what we're all really struggling with, and that's our weaknesses, and because that's what unites us, right? It's our successes and our plaques on a wall that separates us. we were talking a little bit about, before we got on, but what unites us is our pain, man.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I'm going to dig into this pain. And then, no shit, a few months later, my wife and I split. And that, like I said, shattered me. And then I really changed.
Yeah.
And so what I try and do, and everybody's like, man, where do you steal those from? What are you doing? And really what I try and do is I take an experience that I've had recently, I try and process it in a way that I can pull something useful or benchmark something to what I believe is already true to show the baseline of consistency within the human condition. And then I'll, in some type of poetic format, disseminate that so it lifts people up every day.
To me, I mean, maybe I'm a fucking idiot here, but not maybe. Let's be honest.
Come on, bro. We're just knuckle draggers.
To me, there's a brilliance in that, and I don't know if you've thought of it this way. Maybe it's intentional, but to me, that's essentially a microcosm of actually what you're doing, what you're advertising, is that you're taking an experience and you're finding something, to either learn from, to stay positive or positive about. And to me, like that's the secret to not life, but surviving life.
Amen.
I mean, it really is, because we can all talk about purpose and why we're here and what drives us and whatever. But the reality of it is that's the idealist's viewpoint or perspective on it. The realist is the one getting kicked in the fucking balls and trying to figure out, do I sit here and whine about it and play the victim and feel sorry for myself, or, okay, that fucking sucked, I don't want it to happen again.
I don't want that to happen again.
How can I at least learn how to, A, keep that from happening again, and B, what can I take from that, and extrapolate a something positive? Because I mean, I will say, like, I'm not a particularly religious guy. I'm not an everything happens for a reason believer per se. But I would also say is that, you really fall on one side of the fence or the other when shitty things happen. It's either you sit there and fucking dwell on it and point the finger and try to blame somebody and be an asshole about it, or you say, you know what, fucking shit happens, life sucks for everybody sometimes, and figure out a way to use that, to your advantage, and where some doors that you don't want to fucking shut, and you stick your foot in it and jam rocks in the motherfucker trying to keep it open, and whether it's God or the universe or shitty luck, whatever you want to pin it on, whatever you're into, for whatever reason, that fucking thing's getting closed. But that being closed gives the opportunity for other doors to open, which, a lot of times are better. I mean, I know I'm a walking example of a number of examples in my life, just since I've been out of the military, where something happened that was really fucking shitty, but something amazing came out of it, Yep. So is that something that's kind of part of the deal, or?
Absolutely. Frog Logic was born out of this experience in my second trip to Afghanistan when I was working for Blackwater, and I was training the counter drug guys and then going on mentor ops with them, whatever that meant. And we had hit this compound up in Mazar-Shari, and nothing happened. Nothing was going on. It was a false intel shit that they used to do to each other. But I'm sitting there, and obviously I'm looking around, I see these kids in those compounds, and a couple of years before with Team 1, I hated those kids. I was ready to shoot them, because they'd throw rocks at us, or they would, in some cases, like an ODA team, one of the kids, they were in a village, dropped a grenade in the front passenger seat, a lead vehicle, blew this guy up. So, I had this hatred. But this time, I don't know why, I call it one of my God touches in my life. God picked my head up and said, look at how destitute these children are. And they didn't choose it. Right? Kids don't choose any of this shit. And, a 13-year-old girl in Afghanistan, what is she? She's a receptacle for procreation. She's a receptacle for work. I mean, she's beaten, she's covered, she's, diminished and
enslaved.
Enslaved. It's slavery, right? It's, yeah. Even little boys. Little boys are sex toys. They're beaten. It's horrific, man. So I'm going, wow. What enables a kid in that position to smile? Mm-hmm. What tools do they need to smile when it's horrific? To to crawl one extra step in the hopes that maybe something might change tomorrow. And tomorrow that, all right, the sun's going to come up tomorrow. There's potential and opportunity there. I just don't know how to achieve it. And that's what made me start Frog Logic with a kid's book that I wrote. And, and I'd imagined I'd go work with Doctors Without Borders and all that stuff. And man, nonprofit, soft mindset, clash.
I know.
It just didn't work, right?
Yeah.
Horrible. And when I came back home off that deployment, it was like, all right, my research started identifying all kinds of issues here in America. So I was like, well, I'll just help kids in America. And had no idea how difficult that would be. And it was my first real exposure to what was going on. And we talk a lot about this, the kind of the pendulum swinging away from, the harsh reality of life and our ability to express ourselves honestly and communicate effectively through mutual respect to find common ground and solutions. That was disintegrating mostly, and you and I both agreed through the connectivity or the systemic problem of the internet, of social media, and all these things. So I'm like, man, this sucks. So fast forward, what Frog Logic has ultimately become is to this motivational training and coaching and content development company to really say, hey, there are some core fundamental things within the human condition that crosses the planes of culture, right? Crosses the planes of our past, crosses the planes of all these things. And if you can somehow focus on, developing a good foundation within these things, man, you can take a beating.
Yeah.
and I found that I wasn't really good at delivering beatings. I'm just not that kind of guy. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of dudes that we know that deliver phenomenal beatings. I'm not that guy. I don't have it in me. I don't have that, not to say that I haven't spent my fair share of whatever, we get into as young, dumb frogmen, but that doesn't drive me. What drives me is to help people take the beating and get back in the fight.
Yeah.
And take the beating and get back in the fight. And that's really what that daily dose is supposed to do, is that at the bare minimum, someone can wake up, go to my Instagram page, read a dose, somehow connect it to something in their life, and just get a little spark to light that fire in their gut.
Yeah. So two things is number one, I guess a follow-on question is, once that's completed, then it just depends on the day and you kind of go about your day. Is that the kind of the last step of the morning routine?
Yeah, it is. Obviously, we have to sift through the direct messages, the emails, and all that. So I try and keep my digital aspect of pretty short, within a 2-hour spectrum. Then PT, I try and go, because if I used to be an afternoon guy, but now with kids, and once that happens, I'm not getting the PT in. Although now much better with my girlfriend, because she is a PT machine, right? Yeah. So she will say, no, we're going to PT right now, right? Yeah. So most of my stuff is at the beach, because I live 2 miles from the beach in South Florida. And man, it's either a swim, it's sprints, it's paddleboarding, it's kettlebell on the beach, whatever it might be. Even if it's just push-ups, sit-ups, air squats, and then I don't know. Even if it's just basically frolicking in the surf and body surfing, that's my space, and that keeps me kind of sane.
So you just put in the schedule like frolic.
Frolic. I love the word frolic. I wish it was used more, but people are just not on board with it, man.
So, I mean, that makes me wonder if I need to start asking the morning routine question like at the end, because it's like a 20-minute answer to what the fucking morning routine is. But like that happens with everybody. It's fascinating to me, though, because to me, you learn an awful lot about somebody by saying, what's the first 2-3 hours of your day every fucking day look like, and it's neat to hear everybody's different perspectives. It
really is phenomenal insight into who they are and what's important and how they categorize that importance in their life. Yeah. With kids, I'm not important, right? getting up at 6, getting them up, starting their breakfast, getting them up by 6:15, so they can slowly wake, teeth brush out, reevaluate anything in the school day, talk to them, eat, get them in the car, 20 minutes to school, boom, and then maybe start my day at that point. On the road, it's crazy. Usually I'm talking for 8 to 10 hours in a day. Like yesterday, woke up at 7, got up. I had flown in from Texas the night before, got up, had breakfast, met with the guy at UPenn football team, walked over the thing, started talking at 10 with the team, didn't stop till 2, right? Then went in coach's office, chatted with him for a while about the program, about the year. Then met an old buddy who lived in the Philly area. We went, had a drink,
Turned into 9.
Yeah. Now I went to the airport. I got on a flight. I flew here. I landed, in Dallas at whatever.
Yeah.
Went to bed, talked to my lady till 1 in the morning. Woke up this morning. I got in a car. I'm here.
Yeah.
So when I'm traveling, it's just get up to move to the next space. Get up to the move. So there is no routine. There is, other than my prayer, other than anything, there is no routine. And it's what it really, I suck on the road.
Yeah.
I really am not good.
I mean, so for me, I would say, to me, it depends on how long I'm on the road for. Like if it's for a couple of days, I may not fucking sweat, doing some of the things I normally do. But even then, I would say most of the time, I do. I mean, to me, like that's the one thing I will say that from a discipline standpoint, like I have to do it, or I won't fucking sleep right. I won't I've got to incorporate some sort of physical activity most days. I've got to make sure that I'm, taking collagen and fucking CBD oil and MCT oil and the shit that I know keeps my body able to move when I need to move it. And because if I don't, especially if I'm gone for, 4, 5, 6 days, 2 weeks, whatever, like by the end of that, I'll look 15 fucking years older, which let's be honest, I can't afford that. I don't have
You don't have that,
I don't have that
you
kind of flexibility.
Stay disciplined, bro.
And, but I feel like shit. My body seizes up, my back hurts, I fucking get headaches, I lose weight, I'm not hungry, my mind doesn't work the fucking same way, so for me, I even on the road, I take shit with me, kettlebells if I'm driving, I'll do, body weight PTs in the hotel room or whatever when I can fit them in. I'm not hey, I got to get up and I don't work out first thing in the morning. I fucking hate it. I will squeeze it in after taking a shit in the afternoon if need be. I hate working out first thing in the morning. And for me, it doesn't make my day better. It fucking ruins it, because I just feel like shit the rest of the day. I don't know what it is, but
the funny thing is that every time that I'll get a little hair up my ass and I'll implement those things and I'll get, take all my supplements and all that stuff and I'll stretch in the morning for me. That's a big one on the road, to put that towel down in the, if I do that, I feel a lot of times better, but man, it's a
scheduling thing of stuff,
Oh, it's crazy. Cause a lot of times I'll want to be on a flight by 7 in the morning. So that means I'm finishing the night before by 10, in bed by midnight. I'm up at 5. I'm to the airport. I'm on a flight, and so I can. Yeah. And
I generally don't fly early because of that, because I fucking hate it. But that's no bullshit. All right, so the workouts seem pretty straightforward. The one question that I wanted to make sure you talked about the keto, just brush over a little bit of the. Are you kind of just eat whatever most of the time, or you try to keep it fairly clean?
No, I'm okay. I got a back injury last spring break. I was with the girls down in the Keys, and my buddy brought his boat, and he had girls had never done the tubing. And then I saw, he's got this little knee board, right? And I hadn't knee board in 15 years, right? So I'm going, I'm gonna show the girls how cool I am, right? Doing it, and then I'm like, I'm gonna show the girls I can jump, right? And instead of sitting back on it, landing like that, what do? I dig nose in, and I don't let go. Re-injure an injury that I first got in 99, advanced battlefield trauma, doing man carries for 14 straight days. And that set me on this cycle of pain that I just couldn't get rid of. And I'm petrified of opiates and pain pills, because how many friends do we have that are dead now because of it? So it lingered, and then I didn't, and then I'm traveling and I'm not doing anything to help it. And that really just got my workout just way off. And so finally, I've been working with this healer lady who's a really amazing person. Her name's Maggie, and for years and years, over a decade. And I wasn't able to see her. She had some other stuff going on. And so she came back, put hands on. I did like 3.5 hours on a table with her. She got it out, unlocked it. And so I started again. And I'm slowly coming back to where my workouts are much more sophisticated and better. But I got up over like 205. And I want my perfect happy life is 185. That's where I can run 10-mile runs and feel great and do all this stuff. But I got up to 205 and I'm miserable at 205. And so my new girlfriend was like, let's do the keto diet. Well, actually, it was, who was it? I had listened to the Joe Rogan, Jordan Peterson podcast, and his daughter, Jordan Peterson's daughter, had all those problems, goes keto and solves them on. So I'm like, well, if she can solve all that, I can sure take care of my shit. Let's do keto overnight, right? And it was crazy, just like that fast, no prep, nothing. And my girlfriend's like, yeah, let's go, because she's bad to the bone. So like 3 days later, I'm miserable. I'm with the Red Sox. We're in Philly. I'm hanging out with Mitch Moreland. And Mitch is like, yeah, dude, I did it between the 14-15 season. I dropped 22 pounds. I was shredded. It's awesome. Stick with it. And meanwhile, I'm going, I hate you. I don't want to do this. So do I believe in it, man? No. Yeah, it works. Hands down. I know it works. I've seen it work. And do I have the commitment level right now to do it, or the time and to invest and to eat? Normally, I think I eat pretty good. When I PT regularly, I'm good. When I don't, I'm a train wreck. I'm a train wreck, dude.
I think that's a common element for most people, is that it's a fucking roller coaster, just like with a lot of things in life. But
life itself.
Yeah, I mean, to me, for me at least, I know that, by having a structured and as regimented as I can fucking stand morning routine, is that lays the foundation for everything else.
Diet?
Everything.
Diet is everything.
Well, I mean, by doing the same thing and being regimented and disciplined in how I start my day, including with the diet, that helps me stay in that lane.
Absolutely.
Because,
consistency.
Yeah, if I get up and I'm like, fuck it, I'll have a piece of cold fucking pizza, then, like, game over. Like the rest of the day, I'm like, what?
Shot.
Yeah, I mean, like, I already fucked it up. Like I can't salvage it. Yeah, it's like
let's break out the nickel.
Yeah, like I might as well go back to bed and wake up to fucking donuts and. Like I just, well, fuck it. There's no reason to work out, like, I might as well take the day off too while like it's a shit day, like it's fucked anyway. I might as well just continue the fuckery, but, yeah.
Well, I love the fact, nobody knows consistency more than you do, right? And because of the dogs. And,
well, yeah. I mean, there's no, like we were talking about earlier, like Christmas, Easter, 4th of July, your fucking birthday, you got the flu. They don't give a fuck.
No.
Like they're not going to not shit.
My favorite line ever is dogs don't care about Jesus' birthday.
Yeah, they don't. They don't give a flying fuck that it's Jesus' birthday.
Yeah.
They're still going to shit and smear it all over the place if you don't get rid of it quick, So, and for the first, several years of me doing this for a living, it was just me. Like I had no kennel staff. It was just
100-hour work weeks.
Oh, it was fucking, brutal. But there's no option. There's no other option. Like I couldn't afford to hire anybody, even part-time for several years, and, it gives you a healthy respect for what they're dealing with. But B, it makes you realize like, there's a component of that structure and that discipline and that commitment to doing certain things a certain way for them every single morning that sets them up for success, And so, that structured routine makes a big fucking difference with dogs, The
biggest place I'm affected is my creativity, right? Because that's what I do. I write books, I create content, that's what my job is, right? To continue this stream of
bullshit,
complete and utter altruistic bullshit that's not relevant at all in the real world. And so that's my job to do that, man. But when I don't have that consistency, I'm not sleeping on the road. I'm eating like shit. I'm going out to steakhouses and drinking with clients, telling stories till midnight. man, I'm a mess.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work. And so when I come home, especially now with her, you know, she is amazing. She's got a, you know, degree in nutrition. She's, you know, she's a badass yoga. I mean, she's in sick shape and she cares deeply about what's going on. And so I'm more conscientious and it changes everything. I'm a better dad. I'm a better person. I'm a better everything.
Better kisser.
Yeah, I'm always pretty good at that. It sucks, dude, except for this small beaver I have.
Except for the dick broom you have on your upper lip. Yeah, hey, I'm right there with you.
Oh, dude, I know. I would love it. Unfortunately, it goes back to that concept of sacrifice, right? We talked about it with parenting.
Yeah.
We talked about entrepreneurialism. You got to give stuff up. I don't have the propensity and the innate rigidity within my consciousness to not be weak, man, in certain cases. So am I, you know, playing catch up is kind of the thing you do.
Yeah.
And you know, I think that's why I'm, you know, unlike a lot of other people who, you know, I really want the people that I'm working with to realize, hey, it's okay to be a schlep. It's okay.
Once in a while, man. No one's perfect. Because if you're not, and you and I know them, and I was like this in the teams where there was no leeway. Yeah.
And now obviously the explicit nature of our job, you know, you can't, right? Because people will die.
Yeah.
And so, but you know, we're not going into combat every day here. We're living our life. And so learning how to allow myself that grace has been profound for me. And so what I try and do is say, hey, don't destroy yourself to where now psychologically that's fucking with you nonstop, right? Because if you don't give yourself the truth, which is willpower ends and we all crash. We all come up, we crash. We come up, we crash. And depending upon your ability within that, your refractory period, how long those crashes last and how much you can get back in the fight has really become, I think, the determinant factor of your potentiality for success. You know, you can't exist in that space.
Yeah.
It's a fabrication.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I think a good analogy would be, you know, hearing you describe it, it makes me think of the stock market. You know, like from 30 to now, like, yeah, it's gone up significantly, but when you zoom in on those patterns, like, it's a rocky motherfucker. And there's been, you know, just like with people, there's some rough days, there's some rough weeks, there's some rough fucking years. You know, there's some great ones to offset it. And, you know, the goal should be ultimately is that you're still, you know, it's scaled a little bit, but you're gradually, you know, just continuing to climb and get better and better and better, but being realistic about, you know, you can't maintain that level for, you know, all day, every fucking day without losing your fucking shit. Cause I think that there's an element of almost, you know, from a maniacal standpoint, or like an OCD, you know, standpoint where you're bordering on fucking crazy, like obsessively compulsive, like in its truest form. You know, when you take it to that level to where you're a miserable fuck to be around, like, it's like, no, I got to do this. Like, well, fucking, why don't you calm down? We're on vacation, you know, or you got your kids with your whatever, you know. And so, you know, I think that's a powerful message that, you know, that's more realistic for most people, you know. But
bro, we live in a spectrum of that's so unrealistic. It's not even funny.
Social media to thank for that. You know, that's the brochure.
I pass a greater blame on the program than anything. I mean, what they convince us is.
I mean, society. You know.
Yeah, I'm trying to. I mean, the people that are paying attention to you and me, right? Society in general.
All 12 of them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, your audience is much bigger than mine because you're better at what you do than I am. But I think I'm at like 4 now. So coming out of Buds, in the immersion nature of that program and the beautiful operant conditioning that happens in that space, man. God, they create these beautiful robots that are perfect for that
niche,
that sliver of existence that is profound and what its need in this world, in this life, to combat evil head on. But man, did that screw me up in every other aspect of my life. And that's what I tell kids. I mean, I know just like you.
But it gives you unrealistic expectations with every motherfucker you deal with, you know, and which, you know, the reality is that now you're just an asshole. You know, I mean.
The first kids I started working with, like my first 2 years out.
Hey, fuck face.
Oh, dude, I was horrible. I mean, I remember.
They're fucking crying and you're throwing shit out.
Oh, bro, one of my first group, I had 6 kids at a foster care program, all minorities, all from insanely horrific, you know, beginnings. And I was going to put them through a 1-month program, 4 hours every Thursday, getting them dialed in and, you know, treating them like they needed to be treated. And
like fucking white shirt.
Bro, like white shirt bud students, and that was horrible. They responded in certain capacities, but I checked in a month after. All of them had this great high, and then they crashed below
where they started,
where the baseline was, and many of them took a year to recover from that, right? Because
thanks, Dave.
Totally. No, I destroyed some of these kids, and I take full responsibility for it. And you know, over the course of those 2 years, man, I was incredibly lucky. We worked with about, you know, maybe 4,000 or 5,000 kids in North America, a lot of schools all over, and man, I quickly realized I cannot translate that shit into any other capacity. Then I started working with some corporations. You know, 1 or 2, they saw a video or heard about me, and they were dumb enough to let me come in. And man, I was doing the same thing. Fast forward, I one of my favorite stories with how much of an idiot I was and how long it took me to adapt because of my hard-headedness. My first job training case officers, right? I show up. First couple days was in dock, but we're on the range immediately, pistol, right, stuff. And there's a case officer that had been there, you know, 15 years, 16 years, brilliant woman, 4 different doctorates. I mean, off the charts. She had served all over the world. I mean, brilliant. But at 5 meters, she could not hit
anything.
Couldn't hit the paper, man. These are Glock 17s, too. She couldn't hit it. So I'm in her face going, what the hell are you doing? Are you kidding me?
You brought out the knife hand?
Oh, bro, I knife hand the shit out of him, right? Gee, what are you, Jason Bourne bullshit? You know, and I'm screaming at her. And the head dude was like, hey, Rut, man, hey, man, we need some ammo, right? And I'm like, check Roger. And I go, don't go anywhere. I'll be right back. And meanwhile, she's crying. She started crying. And I'm like, there's no crying on the range. There's no crying in combat, you know? And on the way out, fucking Chris Pronto is on the range with me. He goes, hey, man, come on over here, dude. I was like, what's up, bro? And he's like, man, Navy SEAL, huh? And I was like, yeah, bro. He's like, you probably instructor too. Yeah, hell yeah, man. He's like, man, that's awesome shit, dude. You made that chick cry, dude. I'm like, what the fuck, man? They're going down range, you know? And he's like, here, bro, let me help you out, dude. If you don't want to be on the first thing smoking this afternoon, because you do that again, they're gonna ask you window or aisle, dude. Which one do you want, right? You know, what do you want? He goes, let me tell you, they're not doing what you did. They're not doing anything near it. They don't train anywhere like you did. He said, man, you got to expand your horizons as what the reality of what the person you're trying to influence is actually required.
Capable of receiving.
Our jobs is to help these people gain a modicum of behavioral understanding on how they can greater integrate with JSOC units or soft units downrange so they don't kill each other, they don't fight each other, and God forbid they have to go out on a mission with one of our brothers, they don't get them killed. That's your job. So you need to learn how they think, dude, and adjust according to them. And it was the greatest advice I'd ever gotten. Because I took a step back and I go, wow, I'm really bad at what I do. And then I was able to, you know, I dug back into the psychology books and really started asking more questions of them than they were asking of me. And I changed. I shifted to the realization that, man, we all struggle. We all have a different capacity to allow pertinent information to pass through.
Yeah.
Think about how many pieces of information Mike.
Yeah, there's a handful, but that's about
one
it.
or two. You're low on. I shouldn't use you as an example. But so how many life experiences? Well, anything new has to penetrate and pass over, and to somehow, somewhere, it's gonna fuse on that great neuroplasticity. And so at night, you're gonna allow that shit to settle in, and your short little REM cycle of sleep that you have, man, in order for you to learn from it and be better the next day.
Yeah.
Man, it took me a long time to realize that and to accept my own deficiencies first, saying, man, I'm horrible at this myself.
Yeah.
How do I train myself out of it?
No, I mean, to me, the interesting component to that of hearing you explain it is that, my first thought process goes right to dogs, naturally. And we were talking about it a little bit earlier today, but, the ability for me as a trainer or anybody as a dog owner to communicate effectively to your dog hinges on your ability to project yourself into their perspective or put yourself in their shoes.
Unbelievable.
And that's the only way it works, whether it's people or with dogs. And the thing that I've found with dogs that actually makes dealing with people far more easy is the fact that you can't explain a fucking thing to them. You have to be able to physically put yourself in their shoes. And this is one of the things I tell people all the time. A dog's mind works more like a calculator than it does our mind.
Interesting.
Because it's just making simple associations with everything. If you think about it, not to get too off on a tangent on dogs.
No, I like your tangents, dude, because they're brilliant.
So dogs, think about, you have a dog now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
92-pound Rhodesian Ridgeback who's 9,
So
whose whole attitude is changing because I don't have him full-time anymore.
Yeah. But think about, what's the dog's name?
Zulu.
So think about Zulu. Zulu, for its entire life, right? Its entire existence has never thought in a language.
Wow.
It's hard to even wrap your fucking brain around that.
Mm-hmm.
But like that single component in and of itself is and should be what is at the forefront of your brain every fucking time you're trying to do anything with it. Because it does not reason. It does not use logic and a thought process in a verbal language the way we do. They don't dream in a language. They don't think in a language. They don't communicate in a language, not in a verbal language,
Mm-hmm.
And so because of that, you've got to realize is that, when a dog interacts with everything, whether it's the first time or it's the 1,000th time, is that it's pairing patterns and associations. And so if it's the first time, it's inquisitive. It's trying to figure out, okay, what the fuck is this? And it may investigate it, it may smell it, it may look at it, it may go touch it, it may fucking growl at it, it may run away from it. There's a million tangibles and variables that are going to dictate what that dog does environmentally, genetically, exposure, previous learning experiences, etc. But the fact is that what it's doing right out of the gate, the first time that it comes in contact with that stimuli, is that it's making an association somehow. And
do dogs? I don't mean to jump in because I'm just thinking. Do dogs have a memory bank of associations
Absolutely.
That's substantial too?
That's the way we train them.
Okay.
So another analogy I use is think of a piggy bank. And it works with PTS issues in dogs because they get it similarly to us, but it's not the same in that it's 1,000 negative coins in a piggy bank with a negative association attached to X.
Yeah.
And so the way you get rid of that, and this is the beauty of the simplicity of dogs, and this is one of the kind of foundational principles we employ with the Warrior Dog Foundation, is now I'm going to put 2,000 positive coins with that same stimuli,
Right.
but I'm going to baby step it. I'm going to scale it from where it's almost non-existent in terms of that stimuli, where it's just present enough for there to be a realization that it's in its existence.
Right.
And then it's overloaded with a positive association. And as that stimuli gets stronger, more powerful, closer, louder, whatever it is, whether it's gunfire, helicopters grabbing their collar, fucking pick something, is that you have the ability to erase and replace that negative pairing usually. I mean, there are instances where you really got your work cut out for you and it takes years to get rid of some of that
Right.
baggage. But
i.e. trauma and
yeah,
stores.
but
Isn't that interesting that dogs, they have a longevity of trauma as well, just like humans, right?
But it's, again, this is where dogs and people vary drastically, is that we have the ability to think about it and rationalize it, and why did it happen, and how is that affecting me, and can I play the victim? With dogs, it's a survival instinct in essence. If it's to where it's scaring them, shutting them down, eliciting a reactive, aggressive, type of response, it's basic survivability instinct.
Right.
It's that they're scared of something, or they're aggressive. They either shut down or they default to the other way of being offensive towards it. But yeah, it's they're making just that association. It's classical conditioning and operant conditioning,
Right.
in a certain respect, and then it's touching the fucking stove and you got burnt. Well, I'm gonna stop touching the fucking stove then. So
Pavlov was a genius.
Yeah, I mean, but it really is that simple. And similarly to Apple products, is that dogs' minds are so fucking simple sometimes that we overcomplicate it because we anthropomorphize. We attach all of these human emotions and logical thought processes to a dog's brain that just doesn't fucking exist.
Yeah.
So that's really the key component. The reason I brought it up was that in hearing you explain it that way, is that dogs. The beauty of being able to work with them is it makes dealing with people actually even easier.
Much easier, I would assume.
Yeah, because you're so used to not being able to explain it, and you have to just go through repetition and reinforcement and shaping and consistency to where now, now that I have the luxury to explain something to you, it's exactly that. It's a fucking luxury,
right.
But one thing I wanted to just build a little context before we get into some of the working stuff, and then back to the frog logic stories, is just kind of a quick history on you. I like to do this with every guest, and just ask where are you from? Where did you grow up?
Boca Raton, Florida.
So you're right there where you're at.
Right there where I'm at, man. My parents, everybody was from Michigan, and mom and dad had a choice. My dad's parents went out to California. My mom's parents went down to Fort Lauderdale, and my mom made it abundantly clear they were not going to California, right? So they moved down. I was born in 72. We moved to Boca in 73. My dad set up a law firm, law practice there, built it up, and I grew up in this just amazing, incredible. Boca was a small, sleepy beach town until about 84. And then New York State passed a law that when you turn 65, you got to move to Boca Raton and take 70 of your relatives with you. And it changed to the 6th borough. So, it was a phenomenal place. And, I had one of the most incredible childhoods you could ever even dream of.
I'm assuming you spent a lot of time on the beach then, right? But the surf sucks there, right? Like
it's not good. I mean, but when I didn't start surfing until I was 12 or 12. We started boogie boards, me and that guy Rich, and we had gone up to Sebastian Inlet, and I remember seeing Kelly Slater, who was a year younger, older, just shredding. I'm like, I want to do that. That's cool. But it never caught on because I was a sports junkie. It was football, soccer, baseball. Then it was football, basketball, lacrosse, and that's all I cared about. And that was it. That was my life.
In terms of any occurrences or evolutions, were there any events that took place growing up that had whether it's traumatic or profound or both, were there any kind of, big ticket items that happened during your childhood that really changed you or is something that really detoured or made you pivot, on a different path?
Not really. I mean, I was pretty oblivious as a kid. Athletics was, I had put myself in this, physical, mental, and emotional silo that I was defined by, my athletic capability within my dream of playing collegiate Division I football. That was all I wanted to do as a quarterback. And so everything else, it wasn't a big deal to me. There was, I didn't have much trauma, although, later on I discovered that, my brother was gay, and my parents had hid that from me. He was addicted to cocaine and
older or younger?
Older, 5 years older. He was my hero until I was like 6 or 7, and then all of a sudden he disappeared, and that's when everything started happening, and he was experiencing this radical change, and they handled it really poorly. And like you ask about his upbringing, it's 180 degrees different from mine.
Yeah.
So I wasn't aware of any of that because I was selfish and in my state. I went to public grade school, which was teeny, and then I went to a private middle school and then a private high school, and I was in friggin' La La Land.
Did you wear the plaid skirt? Is that what?
I definitely wore it was a St. Andrews Scots, right?
Yeah.
And so my shift happened when senior year we were 0-10, didn't get any offers, so I had to do a 5th year high school at a prep school up in Connecticut. Went up there to play football. Guy recruited another quarterback. We ended up splitting time. He wanted to go to UPenn, to where his dad went, where his dad's dad went. So he got in there. I didn't have the stats to go D1, but I was a pretty decent lacrosse player. I'd been the Florida national representative in the national all-star game for Florida, and that wasn't a big deal back then because there weren't that many teams, but it got me on the radar for certain coaches. So I was able to go to Penn State, where I figured I'd walk on the Penn State football team. Long story short, the freshman quarterback was Kerry Collins, a guy who played 16 seasons in the NFL. I mean, he was phenomenal.
So you whipped his ass, and then...
No, I quit like a bitch. I mean, I gave up because if I wasn't going to be the starter and be the star, then it wasn't worth my time. Yeah. And I had never experienced failure. I'd never quit anything before in my life. Even when I was a kid, my 85-pound Boca Jet team, I was forced to sit the bench all year because the coach put his son in at quarterback because I went on a family trip at the beginning of the season, right? And I was like, if I go on this trip, am I not going to start? No, you're good. Come back, didn't start, didn't play all year. Didn't even quit that team. Nowadays, kid be gone 5 seconds, right? Yeah. And my parents were like, you're not quitting. So I never quit, never anything. Well, anyways, I gave up on that dream, and it shattered me.
Yeah.
A million pieces. And I climbed in the bottom of a bottle of Jack, abused drugs, ended up getting kicked off the lacrosse team pretty rapidly, and was miserable. But that really threw my perspective on the world into upside down.
Yeah.
And that was the real shift for me in my life.
How many were you there? Just 1 year, or not even a year?
At Penn State?
Yeah.
I was there 4 years.
Oh,
my parents were, again, the coolest, kindest parents on the planet. They, my dad's first inclination is rip that kid out, put him in a job, make him whatever. But my mom was, and she didn't know what to do because my brother dropped out of college. He was an addict and all this stuff. And meanwhile, my whole family, it's like 12 lawyers in my family.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody's an academic, Duke, University of Michigan. Everybody's brilliant. And then here, my brother and I are meatheads, and he wasn't a meathead. He's just struggling with some other issues. But, they were cool, and they're like, you stay, figure it out. And it was funny because my grade point average during the year was like a 1.4, right?
Yeah, that's pretty healthy.
Yeah, real good. My grade point average in the summer was a 4.0.
Yeah.
So I'd catch up in summer, and I'd manage to figure it out. But what I did discover is that I actually had a brain.
Yeah.
And so I started reading, and I read everything I could wrap my mind around. I mean, you had those books, that we looked at over there. Man, I love that you're reading all that stuff from Emerson to, Socrates to Descartes to, everything you can think about. And I got into art, all artists and artist background and what drives them. And it was my first discovery that, hey, man, I have more than just a good arm. I actually have a mind, but I had no idea where to place it, put it, or anything, bro.
Yeah.
And so I just kind of stayed in this space of really ultimately depression because I started battling depression for about 4 years. So.
Yeah. Did you end up graduating from Penn State?
No, my big shift was crazy because, on your show with Andy, you talked about, that time frame and what was the inspiration. And, my freshman year, my next door neighbor, this guy from Scranton, PA, was in the Army Reserves. And he had given me this book. He's like, Rutherford, I think you'd like this book. And it was Men with Green Faces.
Yeah.
And I read that. And I was like, that's friggin' cool. And I'd never heard about SEALs. I knew about SF and Green Berets. And I was a big plain Army guy and a kid. Loved Deer Hunter and Apocalypse Now and all that. And So I read this. Well, fast forward, April 95, I have my first big God moment in my life. I didn't know it then, and it was like I had hit rock bottom where I didn't have any direction, and I knew it. I was conscious in it. And I said, I got to change my life right now. And so the decision was, man, what those guys talked about in that book, that camaraderie, because I realized very quickly all my success in my whole life had been as a result of being on a team. Mm-hmm. All my self-confidence, my ability to assess fear, purpose, like we talked about before, real meaning and purpose in life was just to win, to be a part of a team, and that. So I was like, well, what better place to go to retrain me than this program I had no idea about. Yeah. It's supposedly pretty hard, but I'm a former Division I athlete. Who cares? Yeah. I'll cruise through that, and be a part of this epic team. And then it would also satiate a big fear I had with, I didn't know if I would ever be able to stand side by side next to great men because of my fear of death, my fear of, I didn't have real strength because of where I grew up. I didn't have hardships growing up really, So I had all these fears that I manifested through this depression. So I dropped out in November 90 or May 95 and came home. And within a couple weeks, I was, watching Be Someone Special in the recruiter's office and signing on the dotted line, man.
So, I mean, that's interesting is that, to me, it's rare that the primary motivator and inspiration for joining a group like that, and I've had a number of SEALs on and other soft guys who are equally elite in terms of the, divisions of law enforcement or whatever. Is that it wasn't really an inspiration of service to your country / military fondness. It was, I want to be part of a fucking team and prove something, right? I mean, is that...
What am I worth? Yeah. Right? How valuable am I in the greater context of what society or culture or history or whatever you want to spin it with? Yeah. How do I measure up next to other great men? Yeah. And I wasn't going to be able to do it athletically anymore. And I eventually got to the spot where I realized that a 5'11", 100, well, by then I was like 200 pound guy running a 540, physiologically could not compete at the Division I level. Just from my release point height alone was 6'2.5". And
it needs
my
to be more like 12 feet.
Yeah, well, I mean, Kerry was 6'5", 255 pounds. He had a 2-step 80-yard ball. Yeah. He was built to be a quarterback in the NFL. Yeah. And I couldn't compete with that. Yeah. You look at Breeze or Flutie, they're anomalies, they're outliers. It's not the case. Physics play a role. But within the SEAL community, I knew that was a better measurement of the greater sense of masculinity, right? Yeah. And what that encompasses.
Well, it's a far more elite club. I mean, that's the reality of it. And that's one of those things like, I remember hearing that statistic going through BUD/S or shortly thereafter that you have a better chance of running into a professional football player than an active duty Navy SEAL,
way better
on numbers wise, so yeah, I mean, it's a
dude, there's only I guess it's like right around 12,000 since 1943.
Yeah. I mean, just numbers alone, like it's a fucking unicorn club, to a certain extent. So yeah, I mean, I hear you. It's an interesting component, but I think it's one that's fairly common within the community,
It's common amongst all young men, really. I mean, it's rare. I think it's even a lot of people like to slam millennials nowadays, and I'm trying to work my way around. It's very difficult, but I'm trying to work my way around. I mean, obviously, it's all influence and what the expectation upon them it is, right? And everybody wants to preach about demasculization and all this, beta male stuff and all whatever. My sense is every young man wants to measure up to something. Most particularly at its core, it's your father in some capacity. Secondary, it's siblings. Tertiary, it's mentor type influences in your life. A great teacher, a great coach, somebody at church or whatever, right? And you say, all right, that's That's what I think
That's
I
your
need to
measuring
be,
stick.
right? Well, now that the teams are exposed and there's like that becomes the apex measurement of masculinity. And so it isn't about I want to serve deeply. It's like, man, I want to see if I got what it takes, dude.
Yeah. No, I mean, I want to be able to say that I did that. Yeah. No, I mean, that's for sure a primal genetic wiring component of being a fucking dude. There's no two ways about it, you know. I could spend the rest of the show slamming millennials because that's what I do. But
that's what I do. Let's just have a slam millennial show.
Yeah, we will. Yeah, we'll bring you back and we'll spend 3 hours just fucking
dissecting millennials.
Yeah,
I love it.
All right, so you went to Bud's just a little before me. It was, what, 210, 212?
I started in 205, November 1995, and then I graduated with 209 in February of 97.
So you were a career Bud's guy for
I used to think, I used to be prideful of that, and now it's outright humiliating, but I always check myself through Jerry Weirs, right? Yeah. Jerry Weirs was 29 months total, I think, so I'm not even in the ballpark. But as it related to a lot of my close friends, who went straight through, and you know, I always measure myself against, you know, the person that I'm like, there's no way in hell that person's going to make it, and then they go straight through with no problem. Nick Hawks is my favorite one. You know, a 125-pound soaking wet 18-year-old kid from Indianapolis who is the cockiest human being on the planet, and he goes straight through Bud's, right? Yeah. And here I am there for 15 months, double the pleasure, right? I look back now and appease my own sense of disgrace in by saying, man, I was so screwed up, I needed the double extra time to get my shit together, right?
Yeah. So was it a combination of performance and medical role? Or
first one, 205, ITB bands, got so inflamed, I couldn't bend my knees. They rolled me to 206. So like a genius, I'm going, well, that ain't going to happen again. So every day after work, I'm going and running additional 4-mile runs, soft sand runs, in shoes, on the thing, every day. And that's on top of the 9 miles I'm running every day, just to eat chow and all the other shit we're doing.
Yeah.
By week 1, day 1, feeling awesome. And I was also road guard too. So lots of, because road guard, you get longer time in the chow hall to sit down and enjoy your food, process your food. I figured that was better.
But you run twice as far?
Twice as far, twice as fast, twice the impact. I'm not smart enough for that shit, right? So by the end of that first week, I woke up on Friday. I had insane, crazy pain shooting through my feet, my legs. I try and make it through half the day. Finally, they're like, go over there, check it out. I go over, stress fractures, both tib fibs. Go in. The doc said, you're done. Performance drop. You're out. Medical dropping you. I go over to the BTO. I'm in standing attention. He looks at me, he goes, Rutherford, you know, what's going on here? And I was like, sir. He's like, listen, first off, you need to relax a little bit and tell me, because this is your only shot. Yeah. And I was like, sir, man, I have no idea what's going on. I'm a former Division I athlete. I've never had problems. My leg, I've always been a runner. I could sprint, I could run. I don't know what's happening. This is what I did to prepare. And he goes, wait here. And I'm like, fuck, I'm done, right? He goes over to PTRR, and I didn't find out this till much later, but he'd gone over and talked to Rewerts, Warrant Officer Rewerts. And for some reason...
Because that guy hated every fucking buddy, by the way.
Hated people. Yeah. Hated. Yeah. And many times directed that hatred at me because I had the mouth, right? Right? Always had the mouth. But apparently he noticed that the mouth, the majority of time, was trying to get guys motivated to complete, regardless of their skill set or whatever. I didn't care. I got the team thing. I always thrived in the team environment. And so I loved to be the motivator. It made me work harder to do that, right? To serve others, to be better, and make me forget about my own pain at the time. And apparently he said, if Rutherford can get healthy, he'll make a pretty decent frogman. So he comes over, he goes...
That's got to be the only time that's ever happened.
No, I've had my career saved.
No, I mean, of him saying...
No, man. I apparently he ended up saving an incredible amount of careers because he understood. He was beneath the insanely crazed, just scary exterior. Apparently he understood training and within the human condition and our evolutionary process within that whole better than everybody else. That's why they put him at the head of PTRR.
Yeah. I mean, I remember when I first showed up, it was as he was leaving. And I mean, there were stories of like for days in a row, he would take the group out at the end of the day and he would beat them until somebody quit.
Yep.
Like most days.
Most days.
You know, and it would just be like, well, we're going to stay out here until one of you fucking quits. Like, Jesus Christ. You know, that's fucking
And dudes
hard.
would do it.
Yeah.
So, because they were like, well, because everybody's, everybody's on the edge anyways, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's right there. That's the fascinating aspect of our program.
Yeah.
You go through those high, and it cracks me up when dudes are like, oh, I never thought about quit once.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and so, but he understood that, right? You know, and another, you know, we had Andy Stumpf on our show as well too, and I love his stories about. He goes, I became an expert at when people were at the breaking point, and then I'd push them over, like happily push them over into the most miserable decision they've ever had of their life, so haunt them for the rest of their days, right?
Give them the 300. This is Sparta kick to the fucking chest.
Here's the bell, right? And he was genius. Well. So this guy was responsible, you know, for keeping me. The guy comes back in. He goes, well, all right, it's your lucky day. You got a little Bud's Angel over there. What do you want? You want a single roll or a double roll? And me being the smart one, I'm like, I'll take the double roll. Because I figure I could get my legs more time. Worst decision I ever made. It ultimately worked out, but it was not a good decision. Because in that period of abyss, I really came off mentally where I needed to be. Thankfully, 208 was a great class filled with a bunch of amazing guys. I mean, my boat crew, you know, was Rob O'Neill, Adam Smith, the Admiral's son. It was 4 other pipe hitters, guys, really just powerful guys that were as dumb as I was and just motivated to be there. And so it lifted me back out and made it through. And then pool comp, just my only performance failure, and it just shattered me and reset 209 and then finished with those guys.
And then you went to 18 Delta.
Oh,
right?
bro. Dude, my career was absurd. Absolutely absurd. I spent 4 months at Team 5 cleaning shitters and picking up cigarette butts, right? No gear, no nothing, getting hammered every day as a new guy. Jump school, 18 Delta, working at Master at Arms, right? Come back, check on board Team 1. And meanwhile, at 18 Delta, undesignated seaman, right? No trident. Cleaning shitters because I was the lowest guy, right? Get back to Team 1. Now I'm 18 Delta grad. Guess where I went? Master at Arms, cleaning shitters there for, I don't know, a few months, right?
So you're master shitter.
I am a master shitters cleaning. In fact, the whole first year, like 3 or 4 years of me speaking to like corporate and teams and stuff was all about, hey, at every place in your career and your evolution, you need to be prepared to go clean the shitters, right? Yeah. Because that's ultimately the humility we need, right? Is to be able to go clean the shitters with everybody else. It resets you. And then that's where, you know, then SQT started, and
that's where we had.
That's where we met. Yep, cleaning more shitters a lot. There, I was the best at it. I took the lead there. Yeah. Went back, Team 1, finally got to work in an actual department until my platoon started. Here's another beauty. Took my board back when we were still doing boards, and ours were the worst. Crushed my board, went into my chief's board, and they destroyed me.
Yeah.
And they ate me up, and they put me on probation.
No shit.
Yeah, horrible. So,
what was the type of questioning, and like what was it that broke you?
It went down the fact that I was a quitter in college. I was a quitter in buds because it took me so long. I was a loudmouth punk. You know, they brutalized me, and I was just shattered. And they held my trident. So got in a platoon, and I'm like 3 months into my platoon. Mind you, guys in my platoon and their second platoons graduated 3, 4, 5 classes after me, right? And they're hazing the shit out of me, and I don't have a trident.
Jesus.
Hoo-yah, Corman. Hoo-yah, 18 Delta, right? But the humility in all that was profound. And finally, my senior chief goes into the master chief. Wally Graves was my senior, awesome, one of the greatest influencers I've ever had. Amazing human being. Very similar backgrounds and how we grew up. His dad was a doctor, grew up in Florida, all that. He was a medic. I was a medic. He finally, like, we're going on our first big trip, and I'm like, Wally, man, you think I could get my trident, man? You know? And he's like,
oh, you still don't have that?
What? Wait, what? And he walks into the Master Chief's office, and he's like, hey, Master Chief, you know, what do you think? When can Rutherford come off probation? And he's like, who? And he's like, Rutherford, still don't have his trident. And he looks up on his board and he goes, oh, yeah, go give it to him.
No shit.
And I was one of the reasons, amongst several other guys, a lot of guys from Team 2, from other teams that were the Stalogs, that changed it to set it in the pipeline to where you go, Buds, SQT, you're pinned.
Yeah. I mean, that's something I think Andy and I talked about. I think it's a mistake, you know, and it's not just because we did it that way. I still think it should be earned amongst your peers that are carrying it and not in that pipeline, you know. I mean, that's just my fucking take on it. But
I'm going to disagree with you on it because I lost out on a tremendous amount of opportunities. I lost out on a truckload of pay.
Yeah.
That, you know, it's got to be based on merit, and I think your peers. So what I think is your probationary, you get in your platoon, and your platoon has the right to where you don't get to wear it if you don't measure up based on certain criteria.
Well, I mean, fuck, they essentially do that anyway. At least, I mean, that's my understanding, is that it's like, yeah, you have it, but you don't have it until we give you the thumbs up. Like, you've been awarded it and whatever, but maybe that's the happy medium. You know, I don't know. Is that they just do it that way? But
I just think there was so much discrepancy, because I remember guys showing up at Team 5 and literally they gave them that book, and 3 weeks later they had their tridents on, making jump pay, dive pay, hazardous duty pay. Their BAH went up, you know, and so you add an extra $1,500 or $1,000, and it didn't even matter if they were turds or whatever. So I believe, you know, it should somehow, there should be I don't know. I think it's working.
I guess for me, you know, the answer then is, you know, from a pay perspective, give them jump pay, dive pay, but motherfuckers, symbolically, you're not wearing that until you really earn it amongst, you know.
I'd go for that. Yeah. I'd go for that. I mean, living on, everybody else is living on E4 pay, and I'm living on E4 pay, and I'm $1,000 under everybody else. So I'm struggling to pay my bills. You add that on everything else, and I know I'm, you know, got the world's smallest violin right now, but it's tough as a young kid trying to figure all that shit out, right? So.
Yeah, how do you bankroll the titty bar? You know,
and that's where I was daily, right? I mean,
shout out to Pacers. All right, so you were at Team 1 for, did you do one
deployment?
One deployment. Was that a combat deployment?
No, man, that was pre 9/11, and it was ridiculous.
Yeah.
It was an amazing group of guys. I think had something been going on, we would have really done well had we not had any international liberty risk incidents, which we flirted with a bunch. But it was a great bunch of guys, very dedicated, worked really hard. But there's just nothing. Man. Nothing.
No, I know. There's plenty of people with just, you know, right place, right time, or wrong place, wrong time. But, so you transition out, and what happens? Like, so you got out just before 9/11?
No. So we come off that, go in my second platoon, stoked. I had some another insanely awesome chief, great LPO, some decent officers. Getting ready, I had to go get my quals back up at my research, so I go down to San Antonio. I'm down there working in the hospitals, I'm going through University of Texas San Antonio emergency medicine, and like a month into it, I get a call, and it's my LPO, and Kyle Gillespie, and Kyle's like, "Hey, Rut, man, I got to tell you, man, we had to let you go. The command had to let you go." The center, Naval Special Warfare Center, they needed an instructor. They put out a call, East West Coast team, and Master Chief rogered your name up. You're going SQT.
No shit.
Yep.
No way.
Yep.
Holy fuck.
Yep. As a one platoon wonder.
No shit.
Yeah, brother. Needless to say, and I always, much like I drank the Kool-Aid of the freedom fight, rootin' tootin' barrel-chested frogman stuff, and, you know, work hard, play hard, and I definitely pushed the envelope of that way too much to the detriment of my career, I think, in many circumstances. But this was a really difficult moment for me.
Sure.
And I fell off the deep end again and really just didn't give a shit. And I showed up and I was miserable and I didn't care. And I'm like, and it wasn't as a result of I didn't care about the teams or the Navy or it was just I was afraid that what the hell am I going to teach these kids that are gung-ho to become frogman that I literally just went through 2 years before or whatever it was. How am I going to impact these? I don't know anything. And I'm going to be here for 2 years. I mean, I was pissed and it came out. Well, thank God, it didn't take very long before Bruce pulls me into his office and he's like, all right, Rutherford, I'm sending you a captain's mask. I'm going to pull your trident. And I was like, whoa. Handhold, like, whoa, Bruce, wait, what do you mean? He goes, dude, you're a shitbag.
No shit.
Yeah, you're a turd. You show up, you reek alcohol, your space is shit, your classes aren't crisp, he's like, you're gone. I don't give a shit. And I was like, but Bruce, this is what's up. And he's like, I don't give a shit. This is your job.
Yeah.
I don't care what happened to you. It doesn't matter. You show up here. And I was around pipe hitters, right? Mm-hmm. Good, Lenig. I mean, dudes that were legit pipe hitters, man. And he's like, you're done. And so I kind of broke down and I was like, but he goes, well, what's the problem? And I said, I'm afraid. I'm a one platoon wonder. I'm afraid I'm not going to be respected. I don't know anything. And he goes, well, now you're starting to talk truthfully to me. And he goes, well, what are you good at? And he goes, I've watched you. You know the medical stuff. You know that. You're good teaching. He goes, what else? And I go, well, I don't know. I mean, I've always kind of been the motivator. And he goes, well, then be the motivator here until you get your feet wet. But come to work every day like you want to be here. And we'll teach you. We'll teach you how to be a great instructor. And that's what I did. I changed and I got into it. And
so you didn't go to captain's mast?
I did not go to captain's mast. And
didn't pull your trident?
Within a short period of time, he had put me in charge of all the man down stuff, all the different types of TCCC. He let me teach every course there was as a lead for a little bit. He helped me become, and all those guys took me under their wing and helped me become a really good instructor. Now, that was my space. Well, 9/11 happens. Everything changes.
While you're there.
While I'm there, everything changes. And I remember not long after that, I ran into a former buddy at Team 1 he was out of training. He'd gotten back in a platoon. And I was like, bro, how are you in a platoon? He was like, they need bodies at 1. And he's like, dude, there's a mobility platoon firing up. It's called DPV platoon, man.
Christ.
You put your name in for it, bro. Go to combat, right? Go to Afghanistan. I was like, done, man. So I go back. I find out about it. I go to Bruce and Mike Lou. And I'm like, Bruce first. And I say, hey, Bruce, can I put my name into this? And there's like 13 other dudes, right? All with truckloads more experience than me. Truckloads.
Yeah.
And he's like, no way. We're screaming. We got a war going on. We need to pump these dudes out. You're one of my best instructors. You're killing it. Nope, you're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
So I went back and I wrote down the history of my career as a medic and what had happened as a result of it. All the different times that took precedent over a greater advancement in me becoming a better frogman, right? Just because it was a dysfunctional. The program for us was not set up very well.
Yeah.
And so we were kind of an afterthought. And everybody thought because we were getting this good deal of 18 Delta that, remember the way they treated corpsmen back in the day. And
Pecker checker.
And at 1, that's the way, I mean, it was bad. You were worthless, right?
Yeah.
And So I wrote up this like 4-page letter explaining, hey, if I get to go on this platoon, it's going to change my career. Let me do this. I won't let you down. He read it and he's like, wow. He's like, okay, I'm going to put you in for it. And he went to Mike Lou, and he said, is this accurate? And you're honest that this will be your second platoon, you'll screen, you'll do 30, all that. And I was like, yeah, 100%. This is my chance. And he's like, all right. So they went to the Master Chief, Will Guile that time, who was Command Master Chief of the center, pitched to him. He was like, all right, I'm going to take your word for it. He went to Smithers, pitched to him. Smithers sat on it the whole weekend because he was making the decision, and he picked me.
No shit.
Yeah, and I got in that platoon, the DPV platoon going over. And so immediately went over TDY, got in.
That's Desert Patrol's DPV.
Yeah,
and
Desert Patrol.
TDY is, basically I guess not a
vacation from you.
Yeah, it's like a temporary fucking position.
Temporary duty, right? And assignment or whatever it is. I went over there and I got in that platoon. That was like end of January, end of March. I'm in Dubai, waiting for the platoon to come over. I did the Advon. They're there, 75 straight days training with those things. Because, dude, I couldn't even change my oil before that, right? Now I'm rebuilding carburetors. 75 days. We were in Afghanistan, in Bagram, end of May 2002.
No shit.
Yeah.
So what was that experience like?
The best and the worst experience of my life, It was in a really peculiar time. It was after Tora Bora. We had lost Neil. Matt Bourgeois got blown up. Remember that? Mm-hmm. Tarnock Farms. And so we had and I didn't learn a lot of this till much later. The agency had put Karzai into power, right? We were orchestrating that whole thing. And so the summer we'd started out and nobody really knew because JSOC and the agency still controlled all the battle space. So we thought we were going to show up and there'd be, here's a stack of missions for you. Pick out whichever one you want. You're a SEAL team, go pick out, and nobody knew because nobody had been doing it at all. Yeah. And I remember I was like, all right, who knows what's going on? So I started going out and asking every unit.
Do you know where the bad guys are?
Yes, literally, bro, literally. Like, I'll never forget the Aussies coming in after being out for 30 days on their lorries, looking like they had just kicked ass. They were road warrior looking dudes. I'm like, they just were.
Where the fuck were you just
I just went up. I said, hey, man, what did you do? All right, this is what you... And then I went over to the SF, all the old guys. It was the reserve unit. And these dudes... Two of the dudes had been in Pakistan training Stinger missiles back in the 80s, right?
Jesus
and they're out there and they got jingle trucks and they got Hodge gear. And I'm like, what are you guys doing, right? And as it turns out, the battle spaces, nobody knew it. The talks were all unorganized because JSOC was not saying anything to anybody. It was still hyper compartmentalized. The agency sure shit won't talk to anybody. And, but these guys had learned whatever area they give you, just get in your vehicles and go drive around and pick a fight, right?
Recon by fire.
And that's it. And so we were the other SEAL Team 1 platoon, they didn't have any vehicles. No one had vehicles. We didn't even have vehicles, bro. Yeah. I mean, people argue about not having armored vehicles. We didn't have vehicles.
I know, we stole a Humvee in fucking Kuwait to drive into Iraq, for fuck's sake.
Right there, bro. We borrowed the Cansoft troop carrier Humvees so we could go operate because the DPVs suck in Afghanistan, right?
They suck, period.
Suck. Well, dude, they're super fun driving in an open desert, right? So we just said, all right, let's do it. But it didn't take very long before, after doing a couple recons, identifying an area where we knew there was a presence, putting in for the follow-on, hits and crickets, and that something bigger than us was going on. at that time I was so myopic, and I thought that we were the tip of the spear until realizing that we were like the little felt on the bottom of the pawn on the chessboard of 400,000 pawns, right? We were just that little thing over there. It was a time where they were trying to organize the first loyal jirga, where all the warlords come together to, ratify Karzai's presence and all that. We were coordinating the whole thing, and there was other bigger shit, but and it made me get really frustrated with what was going on, and so we left after about 3.5 months. I left Afghanistan summer 2002 on September 10th. So not 1 year almost to the date of 9/11, and was more frustrated than I'd been in my entire career.
Yeah. Did you guys have any contact?
Not really.
Not really.
No, it was a joke. I mean,
that's crazy for a lot of people here, but it's not uncommon. I mean, there's plenty of fucking people that did 3 6-month deployments to 2 to Iraq and 1 to Afghanistan that didn't do shit. I mean, there's plenty that did, but I know that for the listeners out there that aren't military folks or more intimately familiar with some of that, I think most people assume like, oh, you're a SEAL in Afghanistan, you must have thousands of stories. Like, not everybody does.
Nope. And my thing was, you go through all of that to come to the realization that even when you're, I mean, it's not even a year after 9/11.
And you're pulling chalks, fucking leaving.
And you really, know where the bad guys are. You know where to go get them. I mean, they gave us a battle space that was phenomenal, which butted right up against Spin Bulldog down in the southeast corner of Pakistan, which was basically where we found out Mullah Omar was, and he was running all the shit that was the counterinsurgency out of right there. So I went and did a little digging because I was the intel guy. I found out some stuff, and that was our space. All we had to do was go drive along the border and pick fights or set up on this one. We found out where some cache sites had been, and they always use the same shit over, and they shut down all those ops. They wouldn't let us happen. And so it was just like, man, I was just like totally dejected. And I realized, man, it's not what it's always cut out to be.
Yeah. Doesn't look like the brochure.
No, it doesn't. And you have to stomach that. And I think as a young man, I didn't stomach it well.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. All right, so you finish up the deployment right before the year anniversary of 9/11. You're dejected. You're fucking demoralized. You're, I would say, probably bitter. About the job and what it represents to a certain extent. Can you walk us through that process of coming back and then ultimately getting out and transitioning into the paramilitary civilian world to a certain extent?
Right. I came home and just was struggling a little bit with everything, and like, wow, I'm this, I don't know. And then,
were you married at this point?
No. And I was like, all right, no big deal. I'm going to come home. I'm going to screen. Everything be good. That was my second platoon. So I took 30 days. I came back. There was a screening in November.
And just for the listeners real quick, the screening means trying out to go to SEAL Team 6.
Yep. And I went to Bruce and Mike, and I said, hey, there's my second one. Can I screen? They're like, yep, go. You got to get Master Chief from Team 1 that you're with to say, yeah. I went over. He said, yep. And then I'm like, all right, I'm ready. And they're like, nope, you got to get the detail to say, yeah. So I called the detailer and I said, hey man, screening coming up. And he's like, he starts laughing on the phone. He's like, no way. You're not screening. There's no way you're doing that. First off, you're going to give me the 9-month back at SQT in the little combat vacation you took while the rest of us are in the hole, and I'm like, and he's like, then basically, you're not a full-blown 18 Delta. So you got to have that full thing before you go over there. So you got to go back and finish that. And most likely, probably because we're in a war and the regular teams are short, IDC Corpsman, I'm going to send you back to a regular team. And he had just shown up. I'm going to send you back to a regular team, and you're going to do another platoon before I greenlight you to screen for Damnick. Now, I would have been 34, 35 years old, right, before I screened. And that was the last straw. And instead of backing up and,
thinking about it, using the chain of command, realizing I could have worked through it or whatever, and I was tired. Yeah.
I was tired of the fact, and I said, well, I'll just change rate. And he goes, hell no, you're not changing rate. No way. Because there was a rash of guys that came in that 18 Delta or the Die Fair program that went through buds and then all changed their rate, and they lost this huge core group of guys that should have been medics. And so they shut that down. And at that point, I met a chick home on Christmas leave, or I was dejected now again, and literally met a chick on Christmas leave. She liked punk rock and partying, and so I asked her to marry me in 25 days. And she did not want to be a Navy wife. She didn't want a deployment. She didn't want any of that. And I, quite frankly, was like, I'm done. And Iraq was kind of getting going, but I thought it would be another 100-day war. How can you know? And after what I had just experienced in Afghanistan, I was like, well, what's the point? Fuck it, you know? If this is what it is, screw it. Because I was dumb, impetuous, selfish again. I was impulsive for sure. And so I punched out at the end of that enlistment in June of 03. And it was devastating.
There's a recurring theme with you getting knocked flat on your ass and being shattered emotionally in a lot of these situations that it's like a recurring theme.
I didn't want to. I guess whether it was I was idealistic or I was naive, or I don't know. I really haven't been able to pinpoint what it is. Probably an amalgamation of all of those things. But I was never prepared for the truth of what life was really actually all about.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's from my upbringing.
I was just going to say, I wonder, and from kind of a big picture, 30,000 foot view psychological standpoint, like I know with dogs, there's an element of calculated stress and chaos that you have to put on them. And it starts with biosensor training as a fucking four-day-old puppy. It's very calculated. And what's stressful to a 4-day-old puppy, obviously, is nothing to even a 2-month-old. But,
right.
You're tickling their feet and you're turning them upside down. You're putting them on a cold, wet rag because it's a stimulus that they're like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
But what that does is it increases lots of things. It lowers resting heart rate. It builds immunity. It builds their ability to take stress, but it's mild enough amounts to where it's not ruining them and crushing their both their mentality and their psyche. But it's building that threshold to be able to deal with it. And the
beauty of stress inoculation.
Yeah, right? And so it starts. But to me, it's the same thing with kids. So yeah, I think
I didn't have any of that.
Yeah, and I think when I fuck with millennials or I talk shit about bashing them, but and the bitch of it is it's not their fault, But I truly believe that there's a huge element of our society of those coddling helicopter douchebag parents that put their kids in a fucking bubble. And it ruins them.
Let me ask you this: what do you think my kids do now? Now they're getting into like little combatives and they'll hit each other, bite each other. That's stupid stuff, right? Sisters, because they're together all the time. And so, what do you think I do to those kids when they do that?
When they fight and shit?
Yeah.
I mean, I would hope you encourage it, honestly.
Well, I encourage standing up for yourself, but when it's the gut reaction of just smashing, as an initiator, I always encourage the feedback from it. But as an initiator, it's like, hey, you can't solve your problems by hitting, right? You got to at least attempt a series of things.
So it's not them just fucking around.
No,
it's legitimate. Okay.
Yeah, so it's...
I thought you meant like in a sense of play. Like
no,
just roughhousing.
No, roughhousing it's full born,
Yeah,
right?
Okay.
when they're being idiots, and first thing they're going in, they're cleaning the bathrooms now.
Yeah.
Right. And they're going back to that sense of, all right, there's repercussion for it. I never had any of that, man. And I think, and not to blame my parents, because they weren't pushovers in a sense, but I was so hyper focused in doing what I thought I had to do to appease them, to make them happy, which was stay athletic and being accomplished on the field. And I did that.
Yeah.
I did it rigorously, and I worked hard. I mean, I was not a lazy kid. I mean, I'd throw 500 footballs a day. Mm-hmm. I'd work extra. If it was soccer season, I mean, there was one year I played on 2 football teams at once. I played on, a 135-pound local team, and then I played on my junior high team, right?
Yeah.
So, I'd go from, so I wasn't a lazy kid, but I certainly didn't have a lot of hardship imposed. I didn't have the psychological pain that would have better prepared me to manage a lot of this other stuff.
Yeah, and I think, again, just like with dogs, it's got to be, in essence, calculated or scaled appropriately to what you can handle, because for 100% sure, just like with dogs or young kids, like, you go too far and you'll ruin them. But
destroy them.
Yeah, but if they're exposed to none of that, and the first, to me, I use the analogy in doing bite work with dogs is that you've got to teach them how to get their ass kicked, and that's a fucking very specific and unique skill set, and you've got to be really nuanced in how you approach it. And it's the subtleties that will either make or break a fucking dog. And same thing with kids, I think, and that, they've got to be exposed to certain things where they are challenged, where they do have to dig deep and overcome things. You've got to let them fail. You've got to let them be scared sometimes. You've got to let those experiences happen in a controlled environment where you can actually control it to a certain extent, so that the first time when they get out into the real world, it's not like, holy fucking Christ. Because, same thing in the analogy I use in the bite work of why I, pick them up by their skin and do certain things that when people are like, Jesus, what are you doing that? Well, they're going to run into that in the real world. They're going to run into people trying to stab them with screwdrivers and stuff them in trash cans and beat the shit out of them when they're biting them. If they're apprehending a twice convicted felon hopped up on fucking bath salts, like that guy's not going to just lay there and let them fuck them up.
Exactly.
And so the analogy I typically will use with that is, it's like taking a 5-year-old and teaching them Muay Thai.
Yeah.
But, and they spend 10 years getting, athletic, they're strong, they're powerful, they're accurate, their muscular endurance is through the roof, but they've never been hit, and then they walk out and somebody just fucking elbows them right in the throat and they're like, ow, what the fuck just happened?
And they shut down.
Yeah, and so I think with a lot of kids nowadays, I really think that there's an element of that, is that the first time they go into the real world and get the fuck knocked out of them, metaphorically.
And figuratively.
Yeah, is that they're like, wait a minute, like that wasn't part of the fucking program. That, like, timeout, like, motherfucker, you don't get a timeout.
The great Mike Tyson quote, right? Everybody's got a plan until you get punched in the fucking face, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you gotta know how to deal with that, and so I think, whether it's dogs, kids, fucking people, whatever, is that I have no doubt that there's probably an element to that
100%.
played a role.
And my other greatest hindrance, and I still suffered from it now, is my arrogance.
Yeah.
Thinking that
I was going to talk to you about that.
Yeah. Well, I was hoping you would. I need it. At least now I'm humble and arrogant, right?
Yeah.
Is, when you think you know more than you do, and you don't.
Yeah.
And so that wake-up call for me was always a struggle. And I thought because I had been exposed to certain things academically or whatever, that somehow that translated into my emotional ability to manage high-level disappointment or whatever I was going with. So, getting out at that time was just horrible, because I hadn't really satiated what I had gone in to really do.
Yeah.
And absolutely that morphs into the recognition of the putting team ahead of self, obviously, but I hadn't actually done what I had intended to do at its fullest. Mm-hmm. And so I had that guilt of that leaving early, and then all of a sudden Iraq kicks off, and now all of a sudden we're losing dudes. Now I'm feeling the guilt that I bailed early.
Yeah.
I tried to satiate that with Blackwater, but it didn't work. So I'm like, all right, maybe
let me kick it up a notch, Emerald style.
Yeah, yep. Well, I thought I could ignore it by moving towards the kids and a greater sense of purpose and meaning, right? That I could somehow bury this other guilt I was experiencing through that. I mean, it was a higher calling type thing. And then the economy collapsed, and so the opportunity to go, now I'm going to go work for the CIA and get to do it. And you know, training for 2 years, I'm like, my money's still not where my mouth is. All right, I'm going to go downrange with them, and that's going to take care. And none of it did it. And it took me that long, really, until I'd say about 2012, 13 time frame, where I kind of had the next aha moment in my life, a big one, where I realized that, you know, my purpose on this earth was not to be a pipe hitter like our friends, right? Yeah. It's just not my purpose. I'm not supposed to be Marcus. I'm not supposed to be Jocko. I'm not supposed to be Andy. I'm not supposed to be these incredible human beings that were in the thick of it and did amazing. That's not my path. Just wasn't going to be, and you can't chase it either. Yeah. I mean, and so my purpose I've discovered is I have an interesting kind of ability to connect with people, because I'm humble enough now that I'm not going to, although I do judge, and that's a big thing I'm working on now, is try to minimize my level of judgment as a default mechanism for my own ego. But I'm open to hearing where people are coming from. I want to know. It fascinates me. And I believe that within all of us, there's a component of success that exists should we be able to know those motivational triggers. There's something in you that makes you a better man every day. And if I can help you identify those exact triggers and you to be able to pull those, then managing how difficult life truly is in the real world, you can get back into the fight faster, like I say. Yeah. So, and I kind of think that's...
I kind of believe my own bullshit on that.
I think I'm believing my shit. People keep coming back. They keep hiring me. You know, they keep listening on the show. They keep responding to the stuff I'm putting out. So, you know, at its core, you said it best. I mean, what's the meaning of life? Why? My two questions are, who am I and why am I here? Yeah. Right? That's the biggie.
Especially when I'm drunk.
Or high.
Where the fuck am I?
Or high, right? And so, you know, for me, now it's, if I can wake up every day and I know now I can't force anybody to do anything, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, not with that attitude, Dave.
Yeah, no. That's why I've got an ex-wife, right? It's because I can't force anybody to do it. And we got to accept what's beyond our control. And so what I've really made the greatest stride ever is to realize that it's not my job to change anybody, to shift directions, to push someone down a particular path, this grand, unique, experience. That's not my job, dude. Yeah. My job is to plant a small, teeny little ass seed that a person, should they choose to believe in my sincerity or my genuine nature, or whether or not they think I'm full of shit, to take that seed and to do what they want, and for God to take care of the rest. So.
Yeah, but I mean, to me, what I love about your story, your experiences, and what you do now is it all fits together fucking perfectly. Honestly, and embarrassingly, like, there's a ton of shit that I've learned about you today, and that's one of the things I love about doing interviews on podcasts in the long form of, hey, fucking, it's an open book and the gloves are coming off and whatever else is exactly that, is that I'm fascinated by what drives everybody, like, I mean, we talk, in the groups that I talk to, I just talked to a group of college students here last week on a retreat in northern Michigan. And that's how I started my talk was, what's the most common question in the world, or in the history of mankind? What's been asked the most? And, I jokingly was like, and no, it's not what is twerking, maybe in our age group it is, but, right. I said, think about in the broad spectrum of mankind. And there was one gal that got it right. And and which was essentially, you know, what is the meaning of life? You know, and to me, it's kind of a two-part answer, is that ultimately, you know, it has to be purpose, and you've got to believe in and be driven to do what it is that you're doing. And to me, it doesn't make a fuck bit of difference what that is, so long as it's important to you. That's step one. Now, obviously, my advice to people is, you know, passion, it doesn't always put food on the table either. Like, you've got to figure out a strategic and smart way to be able to ultimately monetize your passion. Again, whatever it is, however that is. But what I love about your story, and again, a lot of the things that happened to you that kicked you in the nuts and knocked you on your ass. I mean, you know, the brilliance of the Never Quit podcast and in your never quit moment, like your whole fucking life is that.
Yes.
You know, and again, like, I had no idea that a lot of these things happened to you, and what it did to you as a man and as a human being in terms of your emotion and the heartbreak and sacrifice and ultimately the suffering that, you know, that was a result of a lot of these experiences that you went through. And to me, like, there, at least from my perspective, you know, for everybody listening, if you want somebody to, you know, from a motivational speaking standpoint, is that, you know, who better, honestly, like, than a guy like you that has gone through it over and over and fucking over again, and has tangible, no bullshit examples of, this is what happened to me. I was fucking devastated, and I hit the bottle, and you know, like, it's real. You know, and to me, like, I love to hear that, and I just think it's such a fucking powerful message, because A, it's real, and B, that's what your average fucking human being can actually relate to. Like, you see, and I'm not picking on any other motivational speakers, the Tony Robbins and the, you know, and the Vaynerchuks and whoever else, but I mean, there are guys out there that, like, you don't hear that stuff about them, really. You know, maybe they went through it, maybe they didn't, you know, but you don't really get that from them, and so it's almost, I mean, I wouldn't say it's necessarily smoke and mirrors, but it's hard, I think, for a lot of people to relate when it's like, yeah, I grew this fucking business, and, you know, I went from this to this, and like, well, what about the dash, the in-between part of that the rest of us are dealing with every goddamn day? And to me, like, you've got so many fucking critical, awesome examples of what real people go through, far more than myself even. I mean, I've certainly had plenty of kicks in the balls, but the way you have the ability to transcribe that verbally, you know, in a tangible manner to which people can understand, I think is fucking awesome.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate it. You know, and we talked a little bit about this before, is, you know, I really have a lot of faith in human beings. I know it's a struggle nowadays.
It can be hard sometimes.
It can be hard, very hard sometimes, right? But I have a lot of faith in people. Maybe it's a downfall, maybe it's not, you know. And I believe that, you know, it's easy to project, you know, exceptionalism and success and all that stuff that's out there, but it's very difficult. And I'm not saying that, you know, being weak or being vulnerable is you know, more important or less. I'm just saying how I know now we come together in our greatest capacity, where people can share common ground to find great solutions that make huge impacts in their world, right, is through the recognition that we all understand pain together, right? You know what heartbreak is like. I know what heartbreak. You and I can understand that. You know what physical suffering is like. I know what physical suffering is like. We can come to common grounds. You understand the suffering of building a business. I understand. So
we should make out.
We should go. Well, I'm sleeping over tonight, aren't I? So, and
if you play your cards right,
you are a hot man, Mike. And so this pathway of pain is what we all experience, and so I'm going to come to it with as much honesty as you know, as can be. Yeah. And was I going to play Division I football? Hell no, I'm not that good. Was I going to make it to Damn Neck? Probably not. Hell no, I'm not that good, right? Am I going to be bigger than Tony Robbins? Hell no, I'm not that good. But what I know I can do is I can relay some information, whether it's through the Team Never Quit podcast, which is the whole idea, the whole reason why we started that thing was not to show and demonstrate the massive nature of these people's incredible stories, right? But to expose the bitter, horrific nature of the pain they had to endure in order to get to this point, whatever it may be, whether it's Diana Nyad swimming from Cuba to Florida, but it took her 32 years to do it. She did it at, 62 years old or something, right? Or Lara Logan being gang raped by 300 men in Tafar Square. That's not like a person's proudest moment, but it changed her perspective on everything. The most important things, the love for her husband, the love for her children. So that's my purpose. That's my meaning, is to expose that commonality amongst all of our pain, to show common ground. So at some point, at some time, all of us can recognize that no matter what, no matter how much of a pummeling the negative insurgency is giving us, that there is a way to stand back up, which is rooted in the love of ourselves, the love in our faith, whatever that might be, but most particularly the love that we share with other human beings that want to come in and lift you up. Yeah. And that's the truth by which I try and live by.
I mean, it's phenomenal and just incredibly intriguing, and I mean the unique perspective that you bring is remarkable. I mean, it really is, and I love hearing all the stories on the podcast that you have. And I mean, it's funny. The next question I have written down is, "What is your why for starting Frog Logic?" Like you just fucking answered it. Don't be cheating and reading the notes. I'm gonna put up fucking blinder up here.
Yeah, you need blinders.
I'm gonna do the elementary school. Put my hand in front of it.
I'd still figure out where the mirror was, so I could cheat on you anyway.
A fucking orthodontist mirror around the fucking corner, James Bond. So to me, again, the transition that you've made to be able to capitalize on both your experiences and the commonality that you find between people is remarkable and fascinating. I would love to hear, and I know the listeners would love to hear, just some stories of some of the groups that you've worked with and some kind of pivotal moments in some of those experiences, whether it's sports teams, whether it's working with MMA fighters, kids, whatever. If you could maybe give us an example from each of the main categories that you've worked with that stand out as being special, remarkable. I know they all are in their own way to a certain extent, but just, if you could reduce it to a story from each category, I know I'd love to hear about it.
Sure. Thank you for asking about that. So I'll start with this past winter. I had an opportunity through a good buddy, Todd Owen, who had a contact at Oregon State at their baseball team. His son was interested in playing there, and said, "Hey, man, I'd love to go do something with you." And he got in touch with coaches. They said, "Yeah, come out." So I got to work with them, and what was remarkable was his coach is one of the winningest coaches. He's got an incredible program. They were, I think third in the nation last year in the World Series. I mean, amazing. And so I show up, and my big thing is, how do you really pull together people on a team, right? How do we cross over without trying to, shove people, certain ideas down people's throats that it has to be this way. I think we're so unique that the great challenge is to get that uniqueness of everybody to work together for that common goal. And I mean, that's nothing new. So I said, hey, let me meet with the leaders of every grade, or at least not freshmen, but sophomores, and spent about a half hour with each of them, and came to the quick realization that these kids, they didn't really know what leadership was about. They didn't understand what commitment was about. They were all great baseball players, but the idea was that as long as I work hard and play hard, that's going to bring the team together, and that's just not the reality. So we had a great couple days together working with them, and they ended up winning the World Series this year. So that was a profound thing for me.
So you're a World Series champion, in other words.
Not yet. We're getting there. So the other one is with the Boston Red Sox. This is my third year working with Boston, and initially it was coming in for a couple motivational speeches, and then this year we really wanted to expand and really help because they have a very young team, really help the team find some common ground and as to managing the pressures of 162 games, of the business orientation. It's really tough, and to help bring these guys together so they could support one another at another level. Now, granted, Alex Cora is one of the greatest managers I think you'll see. He'll go down and he'll be a Hall of Famer. There's no doubt. He's just a really exceptional guy, and the guys can connect with him. Plus, they have some of the best players in baseball, so that makes a difference. But one thing I think I've been able to help them do is to really say, hey, this is my role, and I can be happy with what my role is, and really utilize and not need to go out too far outside that role or anything, and really, empower these guys to be okay in whatever their role is.
Yeah. And for you, that's rubbing icy hot into the.
Like I get right up in Mookie Betts's, and I put icy hot.
You
on
look
him.
tense, buddy. Come over here for a minute.
So, and right now they just won their 90th game. They're one of the best teams in baseball, and they're on track to potentially win the World Series.
So was it the first year you worked for them? Is that when they won the World Series?
No, they were AL champions 2 years ago, AL champions last year, AL East, I should say. They're in the same division as the Yankees. So they won division 2 years ago, won division last year, lost to Houston second round, and then this year they're expected. They're expected to hopefully win it. So. Fighters, much more difficult.
Yeah.
Whole different craziness with fighters.
Well, because that's not, you're not focusing on team. It's 100%,
Well, there is team. What I've discovered, there's a high reality of team. And fighters are tricky because they get in their heads a lot easier than most other athletes, right? And so it was a very interesting, and I don't have a lot of experience. Two heavyweights I worked with Stefan Struve, and I worked with Andrei Arlovsky, and both great guys, great fighters, but completely different mentalities. And what I began to realize is that fighting, there's a lot of antiquated concepts that exist within fighting, right? There's a lot of old school mentality. And so there's a lot of other things. These guys they're riding this emotional roller coaster, right? Because it's all about
top of the world, and then you're at the bottom of the fucking barrel.
Yeah, and it's 1 minute you're the toughest dude there is, and the next minute you're a pile of shit because you got knocked out because maybe you didn't train right. Maybe you're nursing an injury. Maybe you changed your diet. Maybe you didn't get any sleep. Maybe you had to cut weight. The cutting weight thing in my mind is the most insane thing I've ever seen in my life.
It's crazy.
Right? I watched one dude have to cut 17 pounds in 10 hours for the last time I was in Chicago. How the hell is he supposed to get in? And so there's a lot of interesting aspects. But for me, fighting really is about as you're getting your head kicked in, being able to stay focused and stick to a plan that is really well thought out against the specific opponent you're fighting.
Yeah.
And it's very challenging to do that. So that was a very interesting thing. I'm working with, here's completely different. I'm working with a 15-year-old tennis phenom, this little girl, or I shouldn't call it a little young lady now, who just this summer, I've been with her about 2 years. We've had a really amazing progress. We took her from about 300th to about 50th in the world. This summer, she was in her first French Open Junior, Wimbledon Junior. In fact, she's going to her second U.S. Open this year. She's getting killed in all of them because she's now playing
the big girl.
Oh
league, right?
my God!
Yeah.
Some of these Russians and Chinese, and there's it's five. There's one girl. It's like 5. She's 17. She's 5'11" and 165, and hits like a freight train. But for her, it was being comfortable in what her strengths were, and teaching, but how do you teach that to a little girl going through puberty, who's, experiencing a bunch of other stuff? So that was real challenging, but we were able to keep her focused in what her real strength is and not get distracted by the outside.
So, I mean, to me, hearing, these different examples begs the question, at least in my mind, is there almost a formula that you use where you kind of, I go in, I evaluate, here's the problem. Like, do you tackle it like you would a fucking business, like the Bobs in fucking in Office Space?
Right.
Like, are you going in there and doing kind of an evaluation, and then you come up with a plan, and it's not it's cookie cutter in terms of the steps of the process, but obviously the values, the intangibles that are filling those gaps in the formula are going to be all different, and that affects the outcome. Or how? Can you walk us through that process?
Yeah. So I believe that.
Or is that corporate and that's fucking protected?
No. I think what I've come down to over, because I really have jumped into psychology, when I was an SQT instructor. That's really where I became fascinated. And then in particular, over the last 5 years, I've become a complete freak. I'm reading a book right now called Positive Neuroscience, and it describes what different types of chemicals are elicited by the fact that we touch each other and how we touch each other.
We're going to find out about that.
Oh, it's coming, bro. I know how to stimulate that serotonin in your brain, boy. I'm going to put your dopamine through the roof later.
That's good because my prostate needs checking.
That's horrible, dude. I fell into that one, didn't I? So I believe there are 4 main components within the individual that you need to assess on a regular, reoccurring basis. 1, a person's ability to embrace and utilize fear as a positive aspect of life. Fear is the most negative thing that we are born with and taught our whole lives. And most people have no understanding at all what they're afraid of, why they're afraid of it, when it starts, when it doesn't, when it's triggered. They just don't at all. I mean, I'll be in front of 1,000 people and say, when I'm doing my Embrace Fear speech, I'll be like, all right, who in here has written down everything they're afraid of from the time when they were little, now, and in the future? Every little detail, everything here, whether it's spiders or this or that, being financially secure, being a shitty dad, whatever. How many people have done it? And usually it's like 2 in the whole audience. Yeah. And they did it either 1 in college, right, in a Psych 101 course or something, or their shrink or their psychologist made them do it because they're crashing, had a nervous breakdown or something like that, right? That's it. Nobody else does it. How come we spend so little time understanding our fear when it's the number one thing that inhibits our success, right? So I help people understand fear initially. Second one is self-confidence, right? Every single day, our self-confidence is under attack, whether we get shut down in business, shut down emotionally with other people. It's always under attack, right? Well, what are the steps you utilize to pick yourself back up every day? What do you look into yourself in the mirror? You put the stickies on, you're like, I'm a good person. I really feel good. What does Stuart Smalls does?
Yeah.
I'm really
good enough, smart enough, and goddamn it, people like me.
Yeah, right? Yeah. What do you do? What is the structure of self-confidence that you rehabilitate yourself after taking the blow? So self-confidence is a huge component for me. Next. Then, do people understand how to interact with one another in a healthy medium, right? We do not achieve alone. I've looked and searched history. I've talked to, I talked to incredibly successful people and athletes and all this, and not a single friggin' person yet, Mike, has said, I did it all by myself.
Yeah, there's no such thing as self-made.
Nothing doesn't exist, right? Mm-hmm. Even in the most negative aspects where people come from shit, getting punished, the people influencing that pain, that negative pain, right? Yeah. Provides them with the opportunity to figure it out, right? Or whatever. So I call it the team life. Are people really understanding of what it means to be the team life, to submit to other people's information? What can you teach me because you know better than I? And am I going to accept that in? Are people prepared to do that? I help them with that. And then finally, the number one is purpose, right? Yeah. What is your purpose? And I think so many people, I'll ask that question right off. All right, what's your purpose in life? Yeah. Oh, I want to be a good person. I want to have a long-lasting effect on people. I want to be considered a good dad. I was like, that's fine and fucking dandy. God bless you for saying that. How are you going to do it? Give me the details of it. What are the details of your purpose?
Crickets.
Nobody has it.
Yeah.
And so I ask the people I work with, what is your purpose specifically? If your purpose, like this young girl, she wants to be number one in the world and she wants to achieve it by winning Wimbledon and holding that cup up and saying, this is it, I'm the number one in the world. That she's vividly saying, has known that since she was 8 years old, right? So that's pretty easy with that purpose. Some of the other like non-athletic or whatever coaching clients, I want to be able to serve. Oh yeah? How?
Yeah.
You know, you struggle serving your children, so much less serving greater humanity. You don't even know what the hell that looks like. So let's explore that. So those are the 4 components I start with, but no, everyone's different.
Yeah. And so, I mean, obviously, like with each group or whether it's an individual group, whatever, is that you've got, you know, certain timelines, I'm sure that you know, impact, you know,
yes.
how in-depth the process is or isn't or whatever. But
for me, I believe, and I don't mean to cut you off, but I know you completely understand that with what you do for a living, right? I set the bar at the 2-year mark, right? 2 years, right? If you really dig in and you apply yourself for 2 years, you can restructure the neuroplasticity, the emotional relevance, the behavioralism. You can reevaluate all those and put them in a context where you have the skill sets to then go out and really go after or just live in a pretty healthy state, right?
Yeah.
Most people don't want to do 2 years at all. They don't even want to get near that. They don't even, when you tell them it's going to take you 2 years, they're like, pfft. So I tell my clients, I say, listen, let's shoot for a year. If nothing's happening in 6 to 9 months, then I'll walk away. You walk away, no hardship, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Because you know, I mean, people say, well, you know, let's do it for a month, and a month doesn't do shit, right? Yeah. 6 months doesn't even do shit. You need to invest a minimum of a year.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we were talking about this earlier. The difference now, like some of it is, I think, technology, social media, the internet is that right click, you know, Amazon Prime, motherfucker, I want it this afternoon. I ordered it two minutes ago. Like, where the fuck is it? You know, but talking about like Descartes spending fucking 10 years, 10 years, you know, think about that. Like for those of you listening, and it was in response to the question, I think, therefore I am. So he spent 10 years in the fucking woods trying to figure out the follow on to that, yeah. You know, and like, to me, I think, you know, as brilliant and life-saving in some instances and interesting and amazing technology is, there is a double-edged sword that's
it's shattering people's space-time continuum.
Yeah, and incredibly detrimental and negative because of shit like that. Is that there's like the impulsive nature and lack of patience that exists now is brutal. You know, I mean, there's no motherfucker. I want it right now. You know, I want it 5 minutes ago. You know, and
let alone in learning.
Yeah,
I mean, think about. I mean, that's the satiation of materialism or the gratification of whatever of ownership or whatever. But learning. Yeah. And think about learning. That's why these kids are getting out of college. You know, these intensive
millennials,
degrees,
fucking millennials,
whatever. I mean, and even in our community, right? Yeah. Kids are finishing this 2-year pipeline, very intensive training around nonstop, mm-hmm. and they're like, "All right, I'm good to go." Mm-hmm. They're like, "Bullshit." You know, I didn't even. You know what? Grand total is like 14 years carrying a gun. I still didn't know shit comparatively to other people. I mean. You know, you and I have friends that did 20 plus years who were Jedis, and they'll come out and say, I still had stuff to learn. Yeah.
I mean, within the dog realm, it's the same thing. I mean, and you know, there's multiple layers, very onion-like in the dog industry, just like any industry or skill set, I guess. And that, you know, there's basic, you know, dog behavioral issues to understand and reading, you know, nonverbal communication, reading body language from dogs, being able to use your both nonverbal skills and reinforcement techniques to communicate. But then, you know, within the police and military realm, there's bite work and controlled aggression, you know, which is you know, kind of a fucking oxymoron, right?
And the dog themselves.
Yeah, you know, but there's there's detection work, there's tracking, there's a multitude of different disciplines within the working dog communities that all are equally complex, but independent enough of one another to where they're their own fucking entity. And so, people are like, well, I want to learn how to be a good decoy. And it's like, I hope you have a few years, because it's going to take you that fucking long. I mean, it's no different to me, like the skill sets within dog training, and just like any of the things that your clients that you're working with that you're trying to make major paradigm shifts, is it's no different than learning to be a carpenter, a fucking plumber, an electrician, a stonemason.
Thank you for saying that.
Yeah, like it takes years to develop that, even to get to a level where you would just say you can do it. Not great, but you're competent enough to meet the bare minimum fucking standard to say you're a goddamn carpenter. Like, and it takes years to get to that point. Like, but so few people realize that. Like, it's, whether it's training dogs or rebuilding your fucking mentality or accomplishing a big life-changing goal that way, like it's on par with that. And to me, like, people need to understand that.
I'll tell you the biggest one where I always find the greatest shortfalls with people is within their spiritual identity. And by no stretch am I a Bible thumper. I'm a Christian. I got heavy faith, but I don't preach it on a regular basis. I probably should do more of it.
Can I get a witness?
Can I get a witness? But right, people taking that leap of faith in their team, taking that leap of faith, knowing they're going to be let down to a certain extent, but still believing in one another to come through the fire, right? To live the righteous life, to do that. And man, I talk to people about faith, and they're like, oh, I'm not going to do that. Well, listen, I've been working at it. Literally, I got saved in 2010 before my first child, right before I was deploying with the agency. And I just was like, man, if I don't do it now, I'm going to get blown up. I'm going to die. My kid's going to be born. That's going to freak me out. So I got saved, and I realized, holy shit, I wasn't even prepared to do that, man. So, and now as I'm trying to become more educated on that process, man, you can last, man, could it take eternity for me to actually be right with God? How long is that?
Well, it's forever, Dave.
Forever. But people don't think about forever.
I know. It's an impossibility to really quantify. It's like space. It's like how can it go on forever?
Of space.
Yeah.
So when I say to people, I said, if you can rewrite your misconstrued desires of completion and set yourself in a moment of eternal growth and evolution, man, you will free yourself up for the advancement you need to make day in and day out. The incremental, the miniature little adjustments that really over the expanse of our time on this planet, man, now you're going to be in the right frame of mind. But that people don't want to hear that shit, dude.
I mean, to me, the easiest way to boil that down is it's the micro decisions. Fall on the right side of the micro decision way more often than not. You're not going to do it every time, but make that conscious decision every fucking time. Whether it's the smallest decision of, am I hitting snooze, or am I going for a run, or am I eating the blizzard, or am I having the salad, like whatever the fuck it is,
The words I choose to use.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I could use maybe some help with that.
No, brother. We talked about it beforehand, right? Is the genuine nature of who we are, right? And how we bring. What is it more? Does it benefit you more through conformity to access greater?
No, hell no.
Yeah, no. Or does it benefit you more to truly live as within your spectrum of belief?
Yeah.
And if that's the case, and you believe that, then hey, try showing other people that same respect and allowing that to exist for them to believe in what they believe in as well too.
Yeah. So, mind your business. Let it. You do you. Mind your business, and let everybody do their own fucking thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yep. All right, so that's we got athletes and and what was the other category? So I guess the two that I'm still curious about is any kind of Fortune 500 good stories of companies you've worked with that you have a good something, a takeaway that you can pass to the audience, and then also obviously with kids, because they're, as the children are our future, right?
I'm not the great corporate guy like Brent Gleason is, or, people that have started these insane businesses. I mean, Brent's company was on, Inc. 5,000 fastest, top 200 for 6 out of the 7 years, right? He was CEO of the year and all that stuff. That's not what I specialize. I leave that to Jocko, the running a company, all that. What I help organizations with is inspiring their people, right? Getting people to be better, right? Getting people to come to work every day and willing to, take it on the chin that they're going to go in and clean the shitter, right? Because I had to clean so many shitters in the teams, right? Yeah. That was the glory of the SEAL teams for me, was I cleaned a lot of bathrooms. So how do you teach an individual or a group of people, hey, that is a relevant role? It has to be done. But you don't gauge that reality by the nature of the importance of what you play, right? Mm-hmm. And that's tough for organizations, right? How do we, and what's happening now is you have, because everybody's running lean, everybody's understaffed, nobody has training, none of this stuff is present. So what happens? You're kicking ass in the company, whether you're a sales guy or you're in whatever, and guess what? I'm the CEO. Guess what, Mike? You're now the new senior. You're the vice president of management and I'm going to put you in charge of 50 people.
Fucking A right you are.
But yet you've never managed anything other than yourself.
That's all right.
Yeah. So what's happening? These people are and then they crash and burn. And so what I try and do is say, hey, listen, I try and help with coaching, right? Because part of managing is managing, coaching other people into believing in themselves, finding that motivational trigger, enduring the monotony or the work, or right, everybody's backstabbing each other in companies, and how do you deal with all that, and how do you stay focused? So that's what my specialty is really helping organizations and people not be deterred from the hardships that it is, the grind of every day. And I worked with one organization for about 6 years and their sales staff, and helping, I'd also give speeches. They were wholesalers within the financial world. And so I'd show up and I'd give speeches to their clients, but I'd spend the whole day with them in their cars driving from one, event to the other. And I'd start helping them. I'd coach them. And many of the people that I'll never forget this one guy in particular. He had come off a desk, right, where he was a helper of one of the wholesalers, and they gave him New York City, right? One of the biggest opportunities. If you're in the financial world and you're selling financial products, New York City's it. Yeah. He was a deer in the headlights. He was like, and I was with him like his first big day. And Mike, I swear to God, I think he was going to shit his pants, dude. It was hilarious. So we went into the first one. I did it. He was like, whoa. Came out. We spent the next 5 hours before our night one dissecting who he is, where he's from, what are his strengths, what are his weaknesses, all that stuff on an emotional level, cognitive level, behavioral level. And then, he used me, I think 2 or 3 times that year. We would text. That year he didn't quite finish number one, but the next year he was number one and has subsequently been number one in the company for, I think, 3 years in a row.
Oh, shit.
So that was a wonderful part, a specific thing in the corporate world for me.
That's got to be incredibly validating, working with all these people and seeing the results and whether it's, team building or inspiring them to find their purpose or helping them achieve it or whatever. I mean, to me, that's what it's all about. Same thing like when I, with a lot of the online training I do, seeing people get good results out of their dogs. I mean, like, can you put that
That's why you do it.
Yeah.
That's the purpose, right?
Yeah. Yep.
It's not about, yes, it's great to have a business, run a business, get paid and live and, be successful. But man, it's about seeing the results. And really the great joy in all of life is, seeing other people succeed through what you share. And, to kind of wrap it up with children, right? That's my greatest thing that there is. I mean, there's by far, it's the most important thing in my life is when you see a child get some of these core things, the light goes on, they make the shift, they succeed, then they get knocked down and they don't stay down, they get back up, and they don't linger in that void of uncertainty through, not understanding identity and all these other child development stuff. But so there was one guy in particular that I had met through a person that had helped me physically with some stuff, and she was a single mom, and her son and I connected, and I couldn't pay her for her service because I just fresh out of the military and I didn't have anything. And so we kind of borrowed. She's like, well, I've got a son. He's 12. He wants to learn how to play football and lacrosse. Bambo, right? Yep, I'm there. That's what I'm real good at that.
Yeah.
So we started working together, and it rapidly became more than that because he didn't have a prominent father figure in the picture. And so we bonded through this other stuff, and we worked together, until he was probably 15, 16, where he was starting on the football team. He was in Who's Who of America. He got great grades. He was doing all this. And then I became arrogant in my influence and had really set an unrealistic spectrum of fulfillment with me, saying, if you don't do what I tell you to do, if you mess it up once, I'm done. We're done. And I'll walk away. Which, when you think about what's the greatest thing that would detriment this kid, would to be abandon him like he was abandoned by his father, right? But I was an idiot, which to much degree I still make horrible decisions today because I am a very dense person. It takes me a long time. Anyways, he really struggled for a bunch of years. He came back, humbled. I was humbled. I felt horrible. We reconnected and started, and at this time I just wanted to be supportive, and I had a completely different ideology now. And we connected again, and very soon after that he's like, hey, I'd like to become, I think I want to be a SEAL. And I was like, whoa, that's heavy. And he's like, I think this is why. And he had written down everything that I taught him way back when he was a kid that I didn't think he was paying any attention to. Yeah. He had all of that done when he brought this to me. I mean, really amazing awesome stuff. And so then I was just like, wow, it did sink in. So I was like, and he's like, will you help me? And I was like, okay. And the guy now is in his, second platoon.
No shit.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
He's married. He has a child. He's one of the most incredible frogmen I've ever met in my entire life. He has an incredible future ahead of him. But the most important thing about him is that his moral integrity, which I did not have much of in the teams. And I think that's why I did not have the career I had hoped I would have, because I was too busy being selfish. I was too busy with a moral ambiguity that was detrimental to me being the best possible frogman I could. He has that stuff. And so that's what really is the most fulfilling, is that he is a good man. Yes, he's a phenomenal frogman. Yes, he's a pipe hibber. Yes, all that. But he's a good man.
Yeah.
And for me, that's the greatest thing that could ever happen.
No, I agree. And to me, one of the things that I'm most impressed by in terms of your character is your recurring ability to be honest in terms of self-evaluation and be not overly hard on yourself, but just honest, and not being egotistically blind, to issues, faults that you have or mistakes that you made. And I mean, obviously that's the recipe for success for any human being to grow. Step one is denial. No, step one is.
Wait, isn't that a different?
Yeah. Isn't that 12
I've been on
steps?
that train too, brother.
Wait, 12-step. Fuck, wrong meeting. Sorry.
Should we start the meeting right now or later?
I thought we were in a different conference here. But, no, I mean, the first.
That'll be Rut Part 2.
Yeah, no shit. Get you back on here, talk about the 12 steps. is being honest with yourself and realize, taking ownership for your fuck ups, and to me, I tell people this all the time, the single most important lesson I learned in the SEAL teams and took away from that is exactly that. It's personal fucking responsibility.
Amen.
Is that every one of us is far from perfect. We're all gloriously imperfect. And the difference between assholes and people that legitimately grow and ultimately learn from their mistakes and become successful in spite of them are people that do exactly that. Is you can be honest with yourself and saying, man, I fucked that up, and here's how I'm not going to make that mistake again, and to me that's my biggest advice to young groups, because I get asked a lot too, to do either leadership things or talking to young kids that want to join the military, or I want to, this is the goal I want to have, and you join, buds at fucking 17, what advice? And it's you're not going to be perfect, stop getting your fucking feelings hurt. Don't be the victim and take responsibility for your shit.
Amen.
It's like Team Guy, Platoon 1, 101. It's like
it's life 101.
Yeah, but I mean, the unique and beautiful aspect to being, in something like the SEAL teams, especially for me at that age, that I'm forever grateful for is, there's not a fucking choice with that.
None.
You're going to learn that shit, or it's going to be fucking beat into you.
Which happened many times
Yeah,
to me.
but it's not a. Let me counsel you. No, it's like, we're going to drag you out by your fucking hair.
Happy hat.
Yeah, tape your ass up and electrocute you until you figure out how fucked up you are. And God help you if you point the finger at somebody else and don't say, I fucked that up, won't happen again. Like, that's the only, answer.
The only answer.
Yeah, that is the only acceptable answer is, yes, I am fucked up and it won't happen again.
Yeah.
And so few people... There to me, there's a systemic problem in our society where there's such a lack of that, But
everybody wants someone else to take responsibility for themselves, and the sense of failure is such an essential component of your growth and your character.
Mm-hmm.
And listen, I have failed and failed and failed and failed and failed, and each new time it's funny. When I first started in college, it was 4 years. Post-military was 3 years. And then it got down to a year. And then, my divorce, it was like, man, it was relatively a short amount of time.
That it devastated you?
It devastated me. Yeah. It was only it was probably, 5 months before I was like, okay. And then within 8 months, I had worked through the main component issue that I had to deal with, because I knew what to do. I knew how to handle it. Mm-hmm. And then bam, I'm back in it.
Yeah. So, it's just like we were talking about, whether it's teaching dogs to take stress and bite work, or as young puppies, or raising kids to overcome obstacles. It's that same thing. It's that, you're building your threshold in terms of how big and negatively it impacts you for a period of time, and you kind of learn how to deal with it better each time, just like with everything. But
Amen.
It's fascinating stuff. As we kind of close the episode here, I'd like to ask you kind of now what are you doing? What are you focusing on? What I know there's a ton of shit. Yeah. But can if you can let everybody know what you're doing, where they can find you, all that kind of stuff.
Thank you, Mike. We've got some incredible things happening. We're coming up on our, I think you'll drop this after our 100th show, which is going to be a real big show.
Well, this is live. You didn't know that?
No. Yeah.
It's out right now.
Yeah. Oops. I thought we were going to edit up all the shit that I suck at. I thought you'd only put in a fraction of it.
No,
right?
It's Facebook Live, buddy.
That's awesome.
You're welcome. Yeah. I didn't tell you that?
Nope. Yeah. So we got a big show coming up. We got Rob O'Neill for our 100th show to come on. He and I went through Hell Week together. Yeah. He's coming on. He and Marcus had never done anything together. And it's just one of those really amazing shows. The humility that those two guys shared with one another, and to be, and to witness that, it was really, really a cool experience to be a part of that. Yeah. And we're about ready, potentially. We're hoping, we're working on a big deal to take the show to the next level, to where it becomes more national and unknown thing to cross demographics.
Like syndicated almost?
We're potentially through a radio network and stuff. Well, we'll hold cross figures. A lot of hurdles we got to cross, but it's doing well. We're really happy with where it's going. Professionally, I'm getting ready to release my next kids book. I'm almost done with my next adult book. My speaking, is really kind of, still doing well. And, I'll probably do, I don't know, maybe 7 events this year. I'm working with more and more teams. Hopefully, if the Red Sox, if it all comes to fruition, I'll be a collegiate World Series champion and a World Series champion this year. And that would be a pretty amazing experience. My biggest thing for sure, though, for me is my girlfriend and her children and integrating them with my girls and me to really come to that point where I can grow as a father with 4 girls, to become a better man, to become a better lover, a better person in that space, to get back to more routines, to take care of myself, all that. If you want to follow us, it's simple. Just go to iTunes or any podcasting app. Go to the search, type in Team Never Quit. We'll pop right up. Subscribe. You got us in your ear 24/7. For me personally, you can follow me on all social media platforms at Team Frog Logic. That's at Team Frog Logic, all one word. Or go to teamfroglogic.com, where on the social media, on Insta, I post a daily dose of motivation just about every day out there. And that's where I'm at, man. That's what's going on. So.
Well, it's fantastic shit, and I've listened to a number of the podcasts. It's a phenomenal show. Like I said, the element of that never quit mentality, especially with Marcus being who he is and what he's been through, in conjunction with all of the fucking tribulations that you've managed to gut it out, in and around, and to me, it's such a neat fit. It's such a great message, and again, This is me, Mike from Mike Drop, telling you. I'm not asking you, motherfucker. I'm telling you, go listen to it or choke yourself, like I tell everybody. We're going to have some T-shirts here soon with some shit like that on it. But
so positive. So positive. I'm so yourself. Happy that our 3-hour conversation, my positivity rubbed off on you, bud.
That's later.
But it hasn't for 20 years, so why should I hope it should now?
I mean, I keep it. I feel like it's positive. It's that stress threshold building up. Choke yourself until you get better at it. The one thing, whether you or anybody else, I do like to end it on a note, or at least for us, I guess. In terms of appreciation, I like to start my day, thinking about that and writing something down that I appreciate or that I'm grateful for. I'd love to give you an opportunity to close it out here with just a note of appreciation that you have for whatever it is, whether it's personal, professional, both. Have at it.
Thank you. My first biggest thing I'm appreciative of, as we get older, we're really, and we know the clock is ticking significantly. I try and be appreciative in the moment as much as humanly possible. And so I am beyond appreciative of you. You are a master of what you do for a living. But there's a depth to you that I don't think a lot of people really understand. People that are listening to this show are beginning to realize it, because it proves in the numbers you're having, which is a remarkable success in a short amount of time. And that's systemic of who you are. And so, to be friends with you for as long as we are, and to watch you grow and to watch you turn into the man you are, and to go through all the things you've gone through, and you're as inspiring as anybody I've ever met, and I'm deeply honored to be on your show, but more honored to be friends with you. I remember calling you and talking to you last year a couple times, and man, you really had a huge impact on me in my time of need, and I just want to say how appreciative of that I am, brother.
Well, goddamn, Dave, I tell you, I'm about getting choked up over here fucking hearing you say that. I mean, The only thing I can say is I'm humbled by your words. I really am, because I don't see that element in me, but I'm both humbled and appreciated that you feel that way, and I can't thank you enough for your friendship, for coming on here, and just everything that you are, man. I appreciate it. Love you, brother, and it's been fucking great having you on here.
Love you too, man.
All right. In keeping in tradition with the appreciation, one thing that I always have to end the show with is showing my appreciation for you guys, the listeners. And I know Dave feels the same way about his supporters, is that this shit wouldn't exist without you guys. And I don't give a shit if you get tired of hearing me say it. I'm going to say it every show because I do. I honestly and truly deeply appreciate the support, and the fact that as many of you do take the time out of your day with all the other brilliant podcasts out there, are taking the time to listen to a couple knuckle draggers like us, wax poetic on our lives and missteps. To have that audience and that platform is not just humbling. It's it's life changing. It really is. I would have never thought I'd be in this position, and neither one of us would be here without you guys. So thank you for listening. Dave and I both love you to death. We're gonna go make out now over some barbecue, and he's gonna earn his stripes here, Texas style. But anyway, in true mic drop fashion, I appreciate everything that you guys are and all that you do. And thanks again, Dave. Appreciate you coming on, brother. It's been awesome. As always, we'll have you on again and get deeper into some of these things. But until next time, this is Mic Drop.